Hey guys, tonight we begin a journey into the life of a man who sought to change the world. This is the story of Napoleon Bonaparte. His life was marked by ambition and struggle. This narrative will explore the experiences of those who lived during his reign. As the sun rises, the day begins in France. It is spring, the year is 1799. Life is waking. In the countryside, the air is crisp. The birds begin to chirp softly. The trees rustle with the gentle breeze. In a small cottage, a peasant stirs. The small room has a window. It is covered with thin, tattered cloth. This cloth lets in little light. The peasant yawns softly. The chill of the morning air creeps in. The dirt floor is cold against bare feet. He sits up slowly. The straw mattress is uncomfortable and worn. Light from the sun seeps through the window. It casts a weak glow on the walls. The peasant looks around. The room is bare. A wooden table stands at one corner. It holds a few utensils. A small hearth sits against one wall. Its ashes remain from the fire the night before. According to records, food is scarce in these times. A peasant like him eats simple meals. Oat porridge is common. It is made from water and oats. Bread, when available, is made from rye. Meat is a luxury. Many days pass without it. Historians have found that vegetables are crucial for survival. Potatoes, cabbages, and beans are staples. The peasant reaches for the bit of bread left from yesterday. He chews slowly. It is hard and stale. The taste is plain. There is no butter. There is no cheese. He washes it down with water. It comes from a nearby well. Some days, it is muddy and bitter. Outside, life stirs in the fields. Farm animals wake as the sun rises higher. A rooster crows. Its voice echoes across the land. The peasant knows it is time to work. He wears simple clothes. They are made of coarse fabric. The shirt is a faded white. The trousers are dark and patched. His footwear is made of leather. These shoes are old and worn thin. He steps outside. The ground is damp with morning dew. The fields lie before him, stretching wide. They are filled with rows of crops. His duty begins with tending to them. A nearby farmstead has a small group of workers. They are already at work. They plow the earth, their tools sharp and heavy. Each worker lifts their hoe with care. The blades cut into the soil with regular effort. These tasks begin early. The sun rises slowly, yet the day feels long. Another worker laughs. The sound is full of camaraderie. Yet, there is hardship in their laughter. The harvest is uncertain. It is late summer. The threat of hunger looms over them all. Each season presents challenges. The peasant knows this well. In the nearby towns, life is different. Shops open their shutters as the sun rises. Merchants prepare for the day ahead. Fresh produce is arranged in small baskets. The colors are bright. There are apples, carrots, and onions. These items draw customers. People walk through the streets as the sun climbs higher. They discuss news from the front lines. Napoleon's army is advancing. Tales of victories and defeats mixed with hope and despair fill the air. Rumors swirl through the marketplaces. News spreads quickly among the townsfolk. Hygiene conditions are poor. Most homes lack running water. Sanitation is rudimentary at best. The streets are often dirty. Waste is thrown outside. Illness is common. Those who can afford it visit local apothecaries. Remedies are created from herbs and plants. These treatments offer little comfort. As day breaks, children rise in small homes. Their mornings are filled with chores. Some fetch water from the well. Others help tend to younger siblings. Education is limited for most. Only a small number attend school. Reading and writing are luxuries. The peasant returns to his field. His tasks are laborious. He bends low to tend to the plants. Each movement takes effort. Back and shoulders ache. Sweat drips down his brow. The sun beats down relentlessly. In the distance, a figure arrives on horseback. This is a soldier. A uniformed man sits tall in the saddle. He brings news from Napoleon's camp. He speaks of reforms. His words are filled with promises. Land redistribution, equality, and rights for all. The peasant listens intently. There is both hope and suspicion in his heart. He wonders what changes may come. Will his life improve? Or will it remain the same? The soldier leaves as quickly as he arrived. The peasant returns to his work, thoughts heavy. Meanwhile, in Paris, life pulses with energy. The streets are filled with people. The wealthy flaunt their riches. Fashion reigns among the upper classes. Fine fabrics and styles are on display. Silk and wool create elegant garments. However, beneath the glamour, the poor suffer. Their clothes are simple. They wear patched trousers and dresses. Their lives revolve around survival. Napoleon's influence looms large. He has commanded changes. The legal system shifts. Rights of citizens are redefined. Many welcome this new order. Others are cautious. As the sun begins to descend, the peasant stands exhausted in the field. It is time to return home. He gathers his tools. The wooden hoe rests heavily in his hands. The sun's rays soften. The sky turns warm colors of orange and pink. He watches the horizon. Day turns into night. With each step home, the weight of the day presses against him. His family awaits. They will share what little they have. And now, slowly, one begins to rise from the mat, preparing for what comes next. The peasant rises from the thin mat where he sleeps. His body feels stiff from the night. Rising becomes a careful process. He stretches his arms gently. Each limb protests slightly. The chill of the morning air again brushes against his skin. The light filtering through the cracks in the walls is weak but brightens gradually. He dreads the moment of leaving warmth behind. The routine of getting dressed is a familiar one. He reaches for his worn trousers. They are patched from years of labor. Each patch tells a silent story of hard work and necessity. The fabric is rough, but it is the only choice available. He slides into the pieces of clothing. Next, he finds a long shirt made from coarse linen. He puts it over his head. The fabric is uncomfortable but adequate for the day's work. Lastly, he takes his simple shoes made from leather. These shoes are damaged, though they have held together through the seasons. He must be mindful as he ties them, they are his only pair. As the peasant finishes dressing, the sounds of morning can be heard. The call of roosters fills the air again. Nearby, ducks quack in the small pond, while birds chirp in the trees. It is a symphony of morning sounds, albeit a muted one. This underscores the simplicity of life. He takes a moment to breathe deeply. The air carries a blend of scents. The freshness of dew, the earthy smell of tilled soil, and the faintest hint of wood smoke seep into the space. Such aromas provide a comforting context amidst daily struggles. After readying himself, he hesitates briefly. The anticipation of moving to the next task looms. Breakfast is next. The family shares this meal. A simple gathering around the table made of rough-hewn wood. He walks slowly to the communal area, where his family awaits. His wife is already present, standing at the iron stove. She stirs a pot filled with water. A bowl of coarse, dry bread sits nearby. The bread is hard, but they have grown accustomed to its texture. Their children, still yawning, rub the sleep from their eyes. Today is a long day, he reminds her, half-heartedly. They exchange knowing glances, words unnecessary. Each understands the demands of trying to feed the family. The children gather around the table, their small faces eager yet weary. They have little energy to spare before the day's exertions begin. The peasant's wife pours warm water into bowls for each member. This water will be their breakfast base. It replaces the porridge that cannot be afforded today. They share the dry bread, tearing pieces with their hands. Each morsel is precious, a delay of hunger pangs. As they eat, the children chew softly. Their attention drifts briefly to the sounds outside. The chatter between neighbors, the clucking of hens, the distant thud of a cartwheel. He breaks the silence, speaking about the soldier he encountered. He voices the hope inspired by promises of change. Land redistribution, equality, a potential for betterment. They are difficult words to grasp. His wife shows a tempered smile, cautious of believing in promises. Will they truly make life better, she asks, a trace of doubt softening her tone. Perhaps, he responds, removing crusty pieces from his beard. The children listen. They sense the weight of the conversation. One can perceive every inch of their small frames absorbing the uncertainty of adulthood. The meal concludes in a familiar ritual. Each bowl is wiped clean with bread, ensuring no morsel remains. They have learned to appreciate every bite, each opportunity. It will be hours until their next meal. The children finish quickly, eager to escape into the sunlight. He watches them dart out of the door before stepping out himself. The sun has fully risen now. It bathes the fields in warming light. The peasant takes stock of his surroundings. This will be another long day. The same rows of crops await their attention. He heads back toward the earth he tills. The soil bears the marks of yesterday's efforts. Today promises no reprieve, only repetition. The peasant once again bends low to the ground. His hands grasp the wooden hoe. The earth feels cold beneath his palms. He grips tightly, feeling the rough texture. As he starts the day's labor, he reflects on the food grown from this unyielding soil. The strength it takes to coax yields from the ground exhibits both reward and frustration. He lifts the hoe. Each strike into the earth resonates through his muscles. Sweat begins to bead upon his brow. The sun's rays intensify gradually. They pierce through the morning fog. Time moves slowly, punctuated only by the rhythm of labor. Around him, the landscape remains relatively unchanged. Birds perform their daily flights overhead. Occasionally, farmers from neighboring plots wave a hand. Their gestures are brief, yet significant. These moments of connection tether him to his community. As the sun climbs higher in the sky, the peasant recalls the soldier's words again. Change will come, he believes, but questions linger. Will it alter life in a meaningful way for him or his family? He methodically continues his work, backbending as the hoe rips through the soil, disrupting earthworms and roots alike. Each swing reflects the struggle for survival. After hours of toil, he wipes his brow. The sun blazes down mercilessly, heat pouring onto his back. The hours pass with a blurred quality. The day's progress is marked by muscle fatigue and aching joints. The peasant realizes it is nearly midday. A moment of respite is on the horizon. The promise of drinking water calls to him from the well. He stands, surveying the land he must maintain, and slowly makes his way towards it. A practice often repeated stems from necessity. At the well, he lowers the bucket into the depths, listening to the echo of splashing water. The coolness on his face as he drinks provides a fleeting comfort. Quenching thirst is a delicate reward for relentless labor. Returning towards the plot, his children rush nearby, eager, adventurous. They mimic his movements while playing in the dirt. Their laughter fills the air, though he feels it mix uneasily with concern for their future. Stay clear of the fields, he reminds them. Do not trample what we have. They heed his words, though the desire to play does not dissipate easily. He observes them from afar. Their innocence is balanced by the harsh realities surrounding their existence. With hours still left in the day, labor calls him back. He bends down again. The hoe resumes its place against the hard earth. The movements become automatic, a rhythm of work that soothes his mind even as it exhausts his body. Soon, the task shifts from sowing to weeding. The latest growth demands attention. Weeds threaten to choke the tender shoots. One must carefully pull them from the ground. The process is labor-intensive, but essential. He takes great care with each uprooted weed, tossing them aside. The ground becomes clearer, but the effort weighs heavier. It may take him until sundown to tend to all the rows properly. The sun descends gradually. A gentle hue replaces the harsh light of midday. It calms the farmers at the end of the day's labor. Soon every back aches with knowledge. The work is never truly done. With every swing of the hoe, another little promise bounces inside. The hope unravels like a vine beneath his feet, entangled yet enduring. Each effort is an investment, a return on hard labor against the quiet anonymity of the land. Eventually, shadows begin to stretch across the field. Night draws near, gradually, reliably. He wipes the back of his hand across his brow. The ache in his body intensifies with the onset of evening. A moment of satisfaction breeds a hint of completion. He stands tall and stretches out his back. The peasants in neighboring fields call one another, signaling an end to the day. There is always comfort in the solidarity of shared toil, drawing everyone closer despite the distances between their plots. And so, the peasant finishes his day, feet weary yet fulfilled momentarily. He gathers his tools slowly, moving deliberately towards the home. The coolness of dusk wraps around him, a softening embrace after laborious hours under the vast sky. As he approaches the dim light of home, the scent of the evening stew reaches him. A mixture of earthy vegetables and herbs floats through the air. It evokes the desire to gather around the table once more. And now, as the stars begin to speckle the sky, he reflects gently on the life unfolding. The slow cadence of the day fades into memories. Each moment slips away quietly, leaving the echoes of endurance behind. He enters the small abode where family awaits. It is time to break bread once more. And so another day passes through the same routine, the same tasks, the same quiet rhythm of life continuing, unchanging, as it had for generations. Transitioning to our next focus, the passage of time leads us to explore the complexities of daily life within the broader historical narrative. We delve into the vast landscape of military figures and their significant roles, tracing the journey of one emerging leader amidst the backdrop of chaotic change. As they gather around the worn wooden table, a flickering candle casts gentle shadows across the room. The flames dance quietly, illuminating the faces of the family with a soft amber glow. The parents and children take their seats, the day's labor etched into their expressions. Their hands, rough and calloused from toil, rest beside small earthen bowls. The humble stew, a blend of foraged vegetables, simmers gently over a low flame. Steamed aromas of potatoes, carrots, and the slight sweetness of onions blend into the air. These are fleeting luxuries, flavors captured in fleeting moments, making the evening meal a treasured occasion. The children, tired yet restless, gaze wide-eyed at the bubbling stew. One can hear the faint whisper of excitement as they anticipate the first taste after hours spent amidst labor. For many in the community, food is sparse, and meals are often meager. Therefore, this simple dish represents a comforting reminder of their collective efforts. Parents serve the bowls with practiced motions, allowing each family member a fair share. Children eagerly dip their rickety spoons into the steaming hot stew. The clinks of the utensils create a rhythmic calming sound, punctuating the silence as they start to eat. The clamor of daily life fades briefly within the embrace of shared nourishment. Conversations linger momentarily, filled with chatter surrounding the happenings of the day. News trickles in from neighboring fields, uniting their experiences against the broader backdrop of societal strife. The sun dips lower, casting longer shadows beyond their small window. Outside, the night sky begins to reveal itself, draping over the community in enveloping stillness. This moment of togetherness is not without its difficulties. In the back of their minds, the unsettling worries of tomorrow linger, like the distant sound of an approaching storm. The essence of uncertainty permeates as the community grapples with the effects of ongoing strife. As they chew through their meager portions, the silence reigns again. The children are preoccupied with thoughts of labor, imaginations weaving stories of future harvests or dreams of adventure. The parents glance at each other, each sharing unspoken thoughts beneath the dim candlelight. The quotidian aspects of life draw them into a shared reverie, united in their understanding of the long journey ahead. Stepping outside after the meal, the peasant surveys his modest surroundings. The realms they inhabit flow into one another, marked seamlessly by the rhythm of nature. The hushed sounds of the night resonate around him, a symphony of rustling leaves and distant creatures stirring in the darkness. Walking through the damp earth towards the fields, he visualizes the toil of sunlit hours yet to come. Stars glisten overhead, witnesses to the daily grind, illuminating paths in a vast expanse. His body craves rest, yet thoughts of preparation for the tasks of tomorrow swirl in his mind. There is always more to be done. Returning to the confines of home, the atmosphere remains tranquil. Conversations drift off as routines take hold, each member wraps themselves in heavier blankets and straw-stuffed mattresses. Gradually, the complexities of labor fade into dreams as the flickering candlelight extinguishes. The world slips further into slumber, signaling the end of a long day. As night descends completely upon the land, the peasant rests. Each breath is a whisper against the sound of quietude. There is comfort found in the embrace of dreams. This simple succession of existence brings solace among uncertainties. With dawn merely hours away, the family prepares to rest. The cycles of labor and life press on. Each dusk and dawn cycle holds promises and struggles yet to unfold. Sleep takes them, cradled in the lull of night, giving them respite. Transitioning to another layer of life, we now shift focus to Napoleon Bonaparte himself, a figure who rose from modest beginnings to wield unprecedented power. Born on August 15, 1769, in the rugged terrain of Ajaccio, Corsica, his story begins amid an environment fraught with its own hardships. His family hailed from minor nobility yet faced their challenges in an unforgiving society. Napoleon's early years were characterized by uncertainty, as the island wrestled with French annexation. These formative experiences shaped his drive and aspirations, ultimately leading him to military school in Brienne. Here, Napoleon encountered influences that would define his future. The rigors of military education mold his resolve, instilling an understanding of tactics and strategy. This environment fostered ambitions that would propel him into the annals of history. As he navigated through military ranks, the turbulence of the French Revolution began to escalate. His rise was swift and marked by notable victories, such as at the Siege of Toulon in 1793. Resources were scarce, yet his adeptness at command coupled with sheer determination illustrated the tenacity of his character. Joining the army of Italy, he carved a significant path. His decisive victory at the Battle of Lodi in 1796 displayed his strategic mind, often outmaneuvering opponents far larger in number. Even in adversity, his ability to adapt became a hallmark of his military acumen. Within the context of the shifting tides of the revolution, Napoleon would also maneuver expertly through political complexities. By 1799, he emerged as the first consul, building a government around revolutionary ideals while battling the remnants of old regimes. The implementation of the Napoleonic Code in 1804 marked a drastic reformation of societal structure. It reshaped the landscape of law and order, leaving an indelible mark on France and beyond. Through strategic alliances and calculated reforms, he sought to stabilize a nation grasping for coherence amidst chaos. As he transitioned from military excellence to political command, Napoleon sensed the weight of responsibility. The emergence of the empire in 1804 defined a new chapter, filled with potential and peril. The opulence of power vested in him echoed his ambitions, reflecting an intricate balance of governance. Amidst the grandiosity of expansion, however, the foundation of his empire would soon face significant challenges. The harsh realities of war would not always bend to his strategies. An infamous turning point arrived with the ill-fated invasion of Russia in 1812, highlighting vulnerabilities that would reshape his legacy. As the vast Russian landscape unfurled under the bitter cold, the campaign took its toll. The freezing temperatures brought unyielding hardships. Troops faced dwindling supplies, morale flagging, while the distant cries of the winter winds drowned out hopes of glory. Napoleon's retreat illustrated the fragility of his grand empire. Shadows loom larger, and the mythic figures of his accomplishments fade, giving way to the stark truth of human limitations. As we reflect on whispers of a man's aspirations entwined with the experiences of the common folk, we begin to explore further dimensions. The transformations initiated by Napoleon reach far beyond the battlefield, permeating through legal frameworks and societal constructs, shaping generations that followed. Now, we delve into the implications of these shifts, exploring the profound legacy left by the Napoleonic Code and its impacts across Europe. The nuances of its creation and adoption continue to echo through history, revealing deeper truths intertwined within legal structures, contrasting with the struggles of those who labored under its watchful gaze. As twilight deepens, the peasant arises in the dim light, limbs heavy from the previous day's toil. The waking hours are slow, framed by the coolness of the early morning air. The sound of roosters crowing signifies the beginning of another laborious day in the life of a struggling household. One's senses are met with a tang of earth as damp soil mingles with cool breezes. The light filtering through windows, sparsely served by glass panes, casts long shadows upon the simple straw-filled mattress that has been the sole companion of many restless nights. Once vertically inclined, the peasant hurries through a brief ritual of freshening, facing a basin of water. This practice, however rudimentary, is marked by the chill that wards off further discomfort. An old woolen tunic is donned, frayed at the edges, reflecting both the passage of time and the limited means of its wearer. The familiar weight of the fabric settles against the skin, offering fragile comfort amid the unrelenting issues of daily life. As the morning stretches into the hours of preparation, a subtle yet palpable hunger begins to gnaw. Imagining the kitchen, one might visualize a wooden table bearing muted remnants of last night's meal. Porridge, prepared from the meager yield of the family plot, may bubble gently in a pot over the fire. The morning ritual of eating is a solemn process. Simple bread, often dark and coarse, is distributed, serving as the cornerstone of sustenance. A peasant would tear shreds from the loaf, each bite taken with an awareness of the limited calories that shall last through the harsh day ahead. Water, still heavily tinged with minerals, provides essential hydration. It is accompanied by herbal tea if herbs are available, adding a fleeting sense of warmth and flavor that elevates the otherwise monotonous meal. Throughout the stark silence, children may awaken, stirring to share the precious food. They too might pick at stale remnants from yesterday, grappling with the fear of scarcity that interlaces daily concerns. Once finished, the family gathers their meager belongings, preparing for the day's agricultural duties. Morning light begins to stretch across the horizon, painting the fields with vibrant potential. As they march towards the fields, the clutter of farm tools resonates softly amid low murmurs of conversation. The air is filled with the faint scent of dew on grass, mingled with the earthy undertones that signal the day's labor. In these moments, the life of toil unveils itself. A peasant steps into the fields, every movement meticulous and repetitive as the hours unfurl. At approximately 6 in the morning, the sun begins to creep higher, ushering in a warmth that contrasts with the early chill. Laborious bend and toil against the soil, their hands worn yet resilient from the demanding work of tilling land. The rippling sounds of nature compose a backdrop to these efforts. Bird song punctuates the air, harmonizing with the distant sounds of other work in nearby plots. Each pluck of grain is a reminder of the sweat and struggle for survival. Every prick from thorns, as one gathers produce, serves as a physical metaphor for the constant fight against adversity. Cursing silently at sharp edges, individuals focus on their quota, operating within a rigid structure of survival that demands efficiency. Community life becomes an unseen element, intrinsic yet subdued. Often, exchanges with neighbors revolve around trading goods, a necessity born from the scarcity of resources. A simple exchange of vegetables for grains might take place amidst brief nods. In these moments lie the foundations of societal ties, woven through hardship and meager transactions. Yet the bulk of daily existence remains solitary, each life striving under the weight of social hierarchy. Upon returning home, the muscles ache from hours of toil, a throbbing recognition of the day's exertions. The sun hangs low as the evening embraces the land with a gentle calmness. As shadows stretch long against the dirt, the family reconvenes, the collective weariness apparent in every furrowed brow. The evening meal, a contrasting reflection of the day's labor, consists of a simple soup crafted from foraged vegetables. The aroma wafts lightly through the house, filled with remnants of earthiness and warmth. Each family member participates in the ritual of sharing, breaking bread and ladling soup while enveloped by the quiet murmurs of those gathered. As darkness envelops the landscape, the rhythmic routine of unwinding begins. Tired limbs are sprawled against the rough-hewn benches. Conversations are sparse, marked by the tired gratitude for another day survived. Families settle in, enveloped by the expanding night. The evening hours morph into moments of deep reflection, cast under a canopy of muted stars. Candles, scant in number, flicker gracefully, their flames creating transient shadows that dance upon the walls. A sense of tranquility blankets the household, as sleep slowly creeps in, coaxing individuals toward the hard-filled straw mattresses that await. As the world outside quiets, each individual yields to rest, marking an end to the day that mirrored those before it. Life is patterned in repetitions, a steady rhythm amidst the undulating waves of hardship and hope. The transitions between waking and sleep illustrate the recursive nature of existence, echoing through the corridors of a history shaped not only by the ambitions of rulers but also the resilience of common folk. And so, another day passes, the same routines, the same tasks, the same quiet rhythm of life continuing, unchanging, as it had for generations. Now, we shall turn our focus to the ways in which the Napoleonic era catalyzed broader societal transformations, particularly through the enactment and legacy of the Napoleonic Code. An exploration of its implications illustrates how legislation reshaped societal constructs, offering a glimpse into the confluence of law, rights, and governance in the historical context of Europe. As we delve into these dimensions, we shall uncover the enduring echoes left within legal frameworks, contrasted against the harsh realities of daily lives continuing to unfold. A quiet harmony envelops the household as night slowly gives way to the anticipation of morning. The modest structures of that era, built with layered timber and thatched roofs, remain still under the dim glow of twilight. Outside, a tapestry of stars blankets the heavens, shining down with muted brightness as if to remind those inside that another day lies ahead. The air remains crisp, carrying a freshness that hints at the promise of labor awaiting in the fields. At daybreak, a peasant awakens with the gentle calls of roosters announcing the emergence of dawn. As the first light filters through the narrow windows, illuminating the sparse furnishings of the dwelling, the peasant feels the pull of duty and the unyielding rhythm of life. Rising from the simple straw-filled mattress that served as a respite from the day's hardships, each movement resonates with the remnants of weariness. Morning tasks beckon. After washing in a basin of cold water drawn from the well, his skin prickles as the chill stirs the senses, causing a rush of awareness. The bracing water does little to alleviate the fatigue etched into his bones, however, it serves as a rudimentary refreshment for the day's work ahead. Hygiene practices in this period were limited, emphasizing the struggle against the illnesses surrounding daily life. Around this time, breakfast rituals commence. Breakfast holds little allure within these humble confines. The family gathers, each member taking a place at the worn wooden table. The time-worn surface bears witness to the marks of generations past. A dry piece of bread, often hard and crusty, is served alongside a thin, watery porridge prepared from rye or meager grains harvested from their patch of land. The taste remains largely unchanged from day to day, a constant symbol of sustenance struggling to satisfy. Children nibble on whatever scraps remain, their small bodies yearning for nourishment to fuel their growing frames. The few available herbs are steeped in water to create a rudimentary tea, lending a fleeting warmth to cold fingers gripping unyielding bowls. Nutrition, as understood during this time, is exceedingly limited. The peasant family relies heavily on the meager crops produced by their labor. The low, fertile farmland, often barely yielding enough to sustain a family, shapes their existence within an unforgiving world. Common words exchanged are punctuated by the sound of the bread being torn, the rustle of skirts, and the quiet hum of thoughts concerning the day's inevitable toil. As the sun rises higher in the sky, the family prepares to journey into the fields. At approximately 6 a.m., they venture outside. The landscape around is dotted with shades of green, swirling under a canopy of blue. The chill that accompanied dawn gradually subsides, yielding to warmth that cradles the workers as they step into the labor that defines their daily lives. Plots of land, often mere fragments claimed through generations, stretch out before them. Here, each task remains tied to seasons and cycles, with labor intensifying as the days lengthen. The deep-rooted toil presents itself through endless hours of bending, digging, and caring for the crops. The interplay of dirt and sweat becomes an unbreakable bond between laborer and land, a relationship forged over years of survival. As hands sink into the cool earth, the prick of thorns and the pull of stubborn weeds become familiar discomforts. Time drips slowly, with moments passing as if adhering to an unspoken agreement to labor tirelessly beneath the sun's watchful gaze. The sweat glistens on their brows, a testament to the struggles faced under the weight of responsibility. The family may occasionally trade fleeting smiles or whispers about the day's tasks, but the majority of interactions are consumed by the steady rhythm of work. The space enveloped in nature's embrace tires the mind while simultaneously fortifying it, solidifying bonds between neighbors, who often exchange scarce goods. The exchange consists of simple tasks being traded for produce or necessary items required within households. As hours melt into one another, the interactions provide sustenance not only to the body but to the community as well, binding these individuals in a shared purpose. Still, there are small opportunities for respite amidst the hard labor. A moment of glance upwards reveals the sky shifting, the clouds melding together, reflecting the heartbeats of a calm, unhurried atmosphere. Conversations, though few, may briefly scratch the surface of individual experiences, revealing the common thread of trials faced throughout the village. Days ebb and flow within these structures of repeated hardship, underpinned by the stress of poverty. Grounded in ritual, the daily cycle continues, one day fading into the next with remarkable predictability. Returns to the home evening allow for some measure of reflection, as tired limbs cross back over the threshold, marking the transition between public toil and private sanctuary. As twilight beckons the onset of darkness, meals prepared come forth from the humble confines of their kitchen. Soup becomes the heart of the evening meal, augmented by whatever remnants are available from the day. Perhaps they hold foraged vegetables or a touch of salted meat, simmered into a warm, simple dish. The air fills with the muted aroma of the simmering broth, encapsulating the labor of the day and the nourishment it promises. As the family gathers once more, the circle tightens at the table, each member expressing gratitude through quiet, unspoken acknowledgement. Their hands busy ladling soup into bowls create a sound that harmonizes with the soft murmurs shared amongst them. Here, within these walls, they find an echo of solace, even amidst the layered struggles that characterize their lives. While the night deepens outside, candles flicker to life, casting shadows that dance leisurely upon the walls. Their flame relies on the slow drip of wax settling, creating transient forms that writhe within the peaceful ambience of evening. These moments of stillness yield contemplative thoughts for each family member as they reflect on the day's efforts, gently leading them toward the acceptance of another cycle of work. When the last morsels are consumed, thoughts begin to focus inwardly, the rhythms of their breaths echoing softly within the space they share. Aside from the minor sounds permeating the night, there is a heavy blanket of tranquility settled among them, drawing fatigue closer with each passing moment. A yearning to rest takes hold. As the confines of sleep beckon, the candle's flame flickers, every flicker symbolizing remnants of hope nurtured through the day. The parents gently usher the children toward their makeshift sleeping arrangements, drawing blankets around them like a protective cocoon. The comforting straw-filled mattresses are not instruments of luxury, but they offer a semblance of warmth against the night's embrace. Now they yield to the inevitable repose, surrendering to exhaustion, marking an end to yet another day woven with the repetitive threads of existence. Day by day, they rise, fall, and repeat, embodying resilience against the backdrop of an increasingly complex world beyond their fields. As the cadence of their lives persists in cycle, shadows of greater historical forces loom on the horizon. Within the stillness that night provides, whispers of a man born on distant shores begin to ripple through the currents of history, beckoning a change that signals the dawn of a new era. In the unfolding chapters of life, we now direct our perspective toward an individual who alters this equilibrium, Napoleon Bonaparte. Born on August 15, 1769, into a modest family in Ajaccio, Corsica, he navigated the turbulent waters of early military life. His aspiration stirred, driven by the currents of expectation that surrounded him. A young soldier, eager to forge his path amid chaos and revolution, would rise to find himself weightily entrenched in the ambitions that would ultimately lead toward power and dominion. Through the lens of his formative years, we shall explore the intricacies of his character, the educational frameworks that shaped him, and the contemporary dynamics that spurred his ascent. This examination offers valuable insights into how the life of one man could cascade forth, influencing the trajectory of entire nations and reshaping the tapestry of history itself. Born on August 15, 1769, Napoleon Bonaparte emerged into a modest family in Ajaccio, Corsica. His lineage traced back to neither the aristocrats nor the common peasants, rendering him a unique figure amid the societal tumult of late 18th century France. His father, Carlo Bonaparte, engaged in politics and modeled ambition before him, creating an early foundation rooted in aspirations. A member of the nobility, yet lacking substantial means, Carlo influenced Napoleon's understanding of power dynamics. Napoleon departed for mainland France at a tender age of 9. The transition to military school in Brienne-le-Château, far removed from the coastal hills of Corsica, was profound. The institution catered to the sons of the aristocracy, having a regimented structure aimed at instilling discipline and military skill. Records indicate that he endured insidious class divisions among the students, struggling with the challenges of assimilation. His Corsican accent often set him apart, a reminder of his roots, while the pervasive coldness of the brick buildings mirrored the more daunting aspects of his life away from home. Education at Brienne was characterized by military teachings, interspersed with mathematics and history. His tutors, identified from historical records, noted qualities of meticulousness and a keen intellect. The rigid framework fostered his penchant for strategy, enhancing analytical skills essential for his future endeavors. The solemn environment encouraged long hours of study, punctuated by exercises that tested strength and coordination, underlining a life of preparation toward an uncertain future. As a child, Napoleon was often regarded as solitary. Existing records denote a youth immersed in books filled with tales of great conquerors, alongside histories of armies and empires, literature that shaped his dreams of military glory. His stint in the robust environment of Brienne concluded in 1784, leading him to the prestigious École Militaire in Paris. Here, a concentrated military education awaited him. The institution detailed aspects of artillery, tactics, and strategy, facets resonating through subsequent military campaigns. Yet he remained deeply aware of his marginalized status, a Corsican among Parisians, grappling with the chasm between noble heritage and real, tangible power. The early years culminated in a commission as a second lieutenant in the artillery regiment of La Fère. Records from the French army emphasize the gradual accumulation of knowledge through practical drills and immediate applications of theory. The positioning within artillery would prove fortuitous, aligning with the impulsiveness and rigor required amid tensions augmenting across the nation. The spirits of revolution and change enveloped France, feeding into an unstable landscape ripe for ambition. The years surrounding 1789 bore witness to revolutionary fervor, marked by the storming of the Bastille and a cacophony of cries for liberty resonating through Parisian streets. As the revolution gained momentum, Napoleon realized opportunities unfolding around him. The urgency of events propelled him through military ranks. His moves were calculated, mirroring the mathematical precision acquired through years of schooling. Documents from military records illustrate cascading victories beginning with the Siege of Toulon in 1793, where he demonstrated tactical brilliance against British forces. The victory was palpable, drawing attention to the young officer's growing reputation as a strategist. Amid these tumultuous times, he forged connections with influential figures, some of whom recognized his potential. This was a crucial period as revolutionary ideologies clashed with archaic systems of power. Conflict characterized the revolution, yet in the chaos, Napoleon thrived. His ability to harness the fervent energy of soldiers transformed the regiment into a force capable of executing rapid maneuvers, achieving objectives that resonated deeply with the revolutionary spirit surrounding France. The political upheaval permeated through each battleground, mirroring how daily life for common people underwent significant shifts. In the countryside, individuals wrestled with uncertainty and scarcity. As the population of France grappled with hunger and poverty, the elite remained entrenched, disconnected from the struggles of ordinary citizens. The dichotomy between those in power and the agrarian populace deepened, with murmurs of dissatisfaction casting shadows over the burgeoning ambitions of the military leader steadily rising through the ranks. The fall of the monarchy demanded reinstated order, and Napoleon's sharpened focus on methodology became evident during the campaign in Italy. With swift advances, he effectively restructured how the army engaged, favoring flexibility and speed over traditional formations. His ascension through these ranks reflected more than mere military prowess. It was a movement steeped within France's zeitgeist of radical change and desperate desire for stability. As the soldiers marched to the command of this ambitious leader, the relationship between soldier and commander transformed. His success at the Battle of Lodi in 1796 exemplified this synthesis. Historical accounts evoke spirited scenes of honor bestowed by the troops, paying homage to leadership that inspired loyalty. Records indicate his capacity to motivate and unify was exceptional, augmenting a loyalty that resonated through the ranks. His talents extended beyond the battlefield. Napoleon sought to forge political alliances while executing reforms. The turbulent nature of the revolution necessitated maneuvering through a landscape marred by unrest and discontent. The transition into political structures became inevitable as the French revolutionary government teetered on instability. The Revolutionary Tribunal faced protests and challenges, while the Directory struggled to establish control. The coup of 18 Brumaire in November 1799 marked a decisive moment. With the momentum garnered from military successes, Napoleon maneuvered through political strife to seize power as first consul. The consolidation of control reflected a shift towards central authority amid the aspirations for unity that lingered within revolutionary constraints. Records from the period detail the complexity of his role as he deftly negotiated with contemporaries, skillfully positioning himself within a political landscape characterized by rapid change. Napoleon's tenure as the first consul allowed him to introduce significant reforms across France. The enactment of the Napoleonic Code in 1804 echoed the spirit of equality, establishing foundational laws that would resonate through the centuries. Scholars and historians have extensively debated the impact of the Code, noting its alignment with Enlightenment ideals, yet concurrently acknowledging the constraints perpetuated upon women and the working class. Extensive reforms in education and infrastructure aimed to cultivate civic responsibility and national identity. The population began to feel the ramifications of reforms designed to streamline governance and foster growth. Families, who had spent years witnessing the intractable tides of change, began to witness shifts that promised an ordered structure to their existence. Through this phase of life, a young man, born into modest means, engaged deeply with the complexities of a nation on the brink of profound transformation. The fragrance of ambitious plans filled the air, punctuated by fleeting glimmers of hope amidst the shadows cast by societal struggles. As we transition to the next chapter, the ascendance of Napoleon is mirrored in an array of personalities intertwined with the unfolding narrative. His battlefield triumphs gave way to political fortune, yet the resilience of the common folk echoed behind him, laborious and peasant families echoing their silent stories within the broader ambit of his legacy. The complexities of his journey reveal not merely the ambition of one, but the multitude of lives interlaced with the fabric of a society in flux. The struggles they faced, a poignant reminder of the resilience of common people, an undercurrent woven through the annals of history as we progress toward the further exploits of Napoleon Bonaparte. With the common narrative emerging from the backdrop, we shall now delve into the details of his military rise, reflecting on recorded events that elucidate their significance to the ascent of a man whose ambition resonated far beyond the fields of Corsica into the very heart of Europe. As the sun reached its zenith, marking the passage of time on the small island of Corsica, Napoleon Bonaparte's early ambitions began to take shape. His military career commenced amid the boiling atmosphere of the French Revolution. It was 1789, and France was engulfed in chaos. Social tensions boiled over as the people revolted against years of governance marked by inequality and hardship. Records indicate Napoleon, then a young artillery officer, began to rise through the ranks amidst this disarray. His leadership skills became apparent at the Siege of Toulon in 1793. This port city, under British control, held immense strategic importance. The French sought to regain control. Here, Napoleon demonstrated his military acumen, employing artillery strategically against fortified defenses. Documented reports describe how his calculated maneuvers led to a decisive victory. This success drew attention from influential leaders in the military and government. Engaging narratives from shortly after this period reveal that Napoleon effectively used his artillery to breach enemy lines. He directed cannon fire with precision and targeted key positions, leading to rapid advancements. The victory at Toulon set a precedent for his approach towards capabilities and resourcefulness in battle. Soon, he was promoted to brigadier general, marking an important development in his military profile. In 1796, Napoleon's strategic brilliance was further highlighted during his campaigns in Italy. He commanded the army of Italy, facing a coalition of Austrian and Italian forces. Under his leadership, the army faced challenges rooted in disorganization and low morale. Yet, Napoleon inspired his troops with rhetoric crafted for motivation. He emphasized notions of glory and national pride, recapturing their resolve. The campaign began in March 1796 and lasted through a series of battles that would test the mettle of his forces. The soldiers, oftentimes underfed and poorly equipped, rallied around Napoleon's vision. The arduous march through Italy was marked by hardship. Records detail the sentient reality of weary soldiers plodding through rough terrain, sustained by belief and command. The pivotal Battle of Lodi on May 10, 1796, exemplified Napoleon's tactical ingenuity. Historical accounts assert that he devised a plan to cross a bridge under fire, demonstrating remarkable bravery. His troops followed, leading to a crushing defeat of the Austrians. Cannons roared, and the clash of steel echoed in the valley. The aftermath revealed how lessons learned in earlier encounters coalesced into a formidable battle strategy. Descriptions from contemporary sources illustrate the battlefield, the noise of commotion, the cries of soldiers, and the disorder of combat contrasting sharply with the meticulous planning that preceded it. Napoleon's victories energized his reputation and emboldened his ambition. Yet, amid these spectacular achievements, difficult realities unfolded. Each victory demanded significant sacrifices, testing the limits of his men. As he advanced within Italy, Napoleon seized enemy supplies to sustain his troops, a tactic that bore the weight of ethical scrutiny. Rations, at times, were improvised, consisting of bread and preserved meats. Over the next several months, Napoleon continued to win crucial engagements. Battles became increasingly prevalent, each one constructing the narrative of an exhilarating rise toward political power. Under the strains of war, he adopted new strategies. Campaigns merged operational excellence with bold decisions. He swiftly adapted and transformed tactics based on the flow of battle, an instinctive grasp of warfare that disrupted conventional military responses. In November of 1796, following a series of victories culminating in the consolidation of power in northern Italy, he pursued a peace treaty with Austria. Records indicate that this negotiation led to the Treaty of Campo Formio in 1797. The treaty marked a decisive turning point, reshaping territories in Europe. It established French dominions in regions like Lombardy and the Austrian Netherlands, expanding boundaries. His ambition and tactical prowess had reshaped the map of Europe, albeit at a great cost of life. As the campaigns continued, so did the narratives of celebration and triumph. Reports describe the welcome he received upon returning to France. Napoleon was heralded as a national hero. His charisma resonated with civilians who fervently supported his military ambitions. He became increasingly aware of how public perception could yield political influence. By the conclusion of military operations in 1797, Napoleon's fame became synonymous with successful leadership. Yet, the volatile political landscape remained unpredictable. The unrest simmered beneath the surface, with factions challenging his ascendancy. In this turmoil, possibilities for a shift from military to political power served as an ever-looming undercurrent. In 1799, prompted by an unstable government facing turmoil, the opportunity for transformation arose. France awaited a decisive leader. Records detail a coup d'état that took place on November 9, 1799. Consequently, through a delicate orchestration of political maneuvering, Napoleon emerged as the first consul, marking his transition from a military leader to a political figure. In preceding months, he refined his vision for France. His emphasis on restoring order resonated with citizens yearning for stability. Governance during his early years as first consul was characterized by pragmatism and ambition. The drafting of the Napoleonic Code in 1804 served as one of the foundational reforms reflecting his burgeoning legacy. The code established legal frameworks that served a diverse populace. It sought to clarify rights, property laws, and family regulations amidst a backdrop of civil unrest. The intertwining of legal structures and civil rights brought forth significant implications for future governance in France. Thus, the picture of Napoleon Bonaparte emerges, an ambitious figure influenced by profound experiences etched within the military context. The rise through military ranks had projected him into the heart of political power. Underneath the grand narrative, common lives pulsated, shaped by the turbulence surrounding his ascendance. As we transition into the next chapter of Napoleon's tale, we will explore the significant transformations initiated during his reign. The impact of his governance would reverberate through France, initiating a series of reforms that would ignite both possibilities and challenges for the future. The legacy of ambition will manifest in decisions that altered the lives of many, providing a structured overview of the complex interplay between history and ambition. During his tenure as first consul, Napoleon Bonaparte began to lay the framework for a new era in France. His governance embraced a dynamic blend of military prowess and political acumen. The political landscape was both tumultuous and reactionary, shaped by the desires of a populace eager for stability. As Napoleon sought to consolidate his power, a series of significant reforms came to fruition. In 1800, a mere year following his ascent, Napoleon initiated the sweeping reform of the administrative and legal systems throughout France. The nation was in disarray, struggling to recover from the revolutionary turmoil. The inefficiencies of previous governance structures became readily apparent. It was during this period that Napoleon's vision for France would start to materialize. Armed with widespread support from a war-weary populace, he endeavored to restore order amid the chaos. The establishment of the prefectural system in 1800 highlights his strategic approach. Prefects were appointed to govern departments across France, serving as the central authority in local administrations. Each prefect wielded considerable influence. They were responsible for implementing national policies and overseeing local governments, dismantling the power of the revolutionary assemblies that had previously existed. This centralization marked a significant shift in governance, moving towards a more unified and organized state. Simultaneously, Napoleon's reforms extended to education. In 1802, he founded the lycée system, aiming to enhance access to education while ensuring the development of civic virtues among the youth. The curriculum emphasized not only classical studies but also mathematics and science. This initiative aimed to cultivate a new generation of citizens, prepared to participate in the administration of the state and advance its interests. The establishment of centralized educational institutions contributed to a burgeoning sense of national identity, as young minds were molded by the ideals of strength and loyalty to the state. Alongside education, Napoleon recognized the necessity of economic revival. France faced dire fiscal challenges in the wake of prolonged warfare and instability. To address these issues, he implemented the Bank of France in 1800. This institution served as a vital component in stabilizing the national economy. It facilitated the management of public finances, established a stable currency, and provided credit, fostering a sense of economic confidence. The institution played a pivotal role in adhering to the tenets of financial reform. Records indicate this was met with approval among citizens who yearned for economic stability. Napoleon understood that legal clarity was essential for societal order. Thus, he dedicated significant efforts to drafting the Napoleonic Code, completed in 1804. This comprehensive legal framework sought to unify and simplify laws across France. Prior to this, the French legal system was riddled with inconsistencies and regional disparities. The code introduced standardized principles regarding civil rights, property laws, and the rights of individuals. Its enactment marked a significant step toward modern legal frameworks, influencing future legal developments across Europe and beyond. The The reactions to these reforms varied widely. While some hailed the elimination of feudal privileges and the establishment of civil equity, others, particularly those who revered traditions, expressed concern over the consolidation of power within bureaucratic structures. As reforms unfolded, Napoleon positioned himself artfully within the political sphere. His ability to engage with the French populace through propaganda and public displays of strength kept him in favor. Citizens were drawn to the narrative of a leader who embodied ambition and resilience. However, beneath this emerging image lay the reality of persistent opposition and the vulnerability of power. Napoleon's emphasis on meritocracy was a radical departure from the privileges of aristocracy. His administration sought to reward ability over birthright, aligning with Enlightenment principles that had permeated revolutionary thought. This shift provoked mixed reactions among France's estranged aristocracy. Some nobles adapted to the new structures, accepting positions within Napoleon's government. Others remained resentful of the changes, urging a return to past hierarchies. In their private circles, the staunchly royalist factions plotted against the first consul, contemplating ways to destabilize his rule. Still, Napoleon's shrewd political maneuvers allowed him to maintain control, ensuring that dissent remained largely subdued. In the realm of diplomacy, France's relationships with neighboring countries fluctuated dramatically. As tensions intensified, it became imperative for Napoleon to solidify alliances or neutralize threats posed by adversaries. His ambitions extended beyond the borders of France, aiming to extend the reach of his reforms across Europe. Recognizing that military expansion was an important vehicle for instilling his vision, he engaged in numerous campaigns that would further alter the geopolitical landscape. The conflict that followed, known as the War of the Third Coalition, revealed both the strength and vulnerabilities of Napoleon's military might. Armies across Europe coalesced in opposition. Records show that Britain, Austria, and Russia united against him, fearing the consequences of his consolidating power. Nevertheless, French forces demonstrated remarkable discipline and resilience in the face of these challenges. The Battle of Austerlitz, commonly referred to as one of his greatest victories, occurred on December 2, 1805. In this pivotal encounter, Napoleon faced a coalition army determined to curtail his expansion. His strategic brilliance prevailed, leading to a decisive French victory against the Austrians and Russians. The aftermath reinforced his status as a formidable ruler and emboldened his ambitions. While Napoleon's triumphs on the battlefield provided short-term gains, they also sowed the seeds for future conflicts. The tensions generated by territorial acquisitions and the imposition of French ideals on conquered nations often led to resistance and resentment. As neighbors grappled with the implications of Napoleon's empire, calls for autonomy and liberation grew louder. As we contemplate the intricacies of governance under Napoleon, we turn our attention to the ensuing period characterized by grand ambition and authoritative rule. The proclamation of himself as emperor in 1804 shifted the political framework, establishing a new dynasty that would herald pronounced changes. With the implementation of sweeping reforms and the consolidation of power, we observe the interdependent relationship between military conquests and state governance. This dynamic illustrates the necessary coalescing of various elements that defined Napoleon's reign. Now, we will transition into the era of Napoleon's self-proclamation as emperor, within which we will explore the grand ceremonies, public expectations, and the further implications that would arise from his elevated status. The narrative of ambition becomes enmeshed with the spectacle of power, revealing how one man's aspirations would irrevocably alter the course of history. On May 18, 1804, amidst grand aspirations and elaborate preparations, Napoleon Bonaparte crowned himself as Emperor of the French. This self-coronation took place in the sacred confines of Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris. The event was a display of grandeur, orchestrated with meticulous attention to detail. The atmosphere in the cathedral was rich with an array of colors, textures, and sounds. The marble interiors, adorned with gilded accents, glimmered under the glow of numerous candles arranged in intricate patterns. The black attire of the clergy contrasted sharply against the festive atmosphere filled with the rich fabrics worn by the attendees. As Napoleon ascended to the altar, the silence that enveloped the room was palpable. The soft murmurs of the crowd were hushed, replaced only by the rustle of fine garments as the guests shifted in their places. Records indicate that the emperor took the crown from the Pope's hands, a symbolic rejection of religious authority. This bold act illustrated his intention to establish sovereignty not merely as a military leader but as a ruler of divine right, reflecting a significant shift in the political landscape of France and Europe. A grand procession marked this occasion, characterized by the lavish display of opulent carriages and soldiers adorned in uniforms embellished with gold braid. Such spectacles were reflective of the extensive resources available to him, resulting from his successful campaigns and occupations across Europe. This transition into the imperial phase came with the establishment of new governance structures. A bureaucratic framework aimed at consolidating power and enforcing law and order emerged, with the Napoleonic Code serving as the cornerstone of his legal reforms. The Napoleonic Code, promulgated in 1804, aimed to translate Enlightenment ideals into a functional legal system. The code centralized laws, reducing the complexities inherent in the multitude of legal systems that prevailed across different regions. It established principles such as civil rights and property rights. Many legal scholars heralded it as a progression towards modern legal standards. The very essence of the code revealed a commitment to establishing clarity and uniformity. However, it also imposed restrictions on rights previously enjoyed, highlighting a duality in Napoleon's vision for France. During the reign of Emperor Napoleon, the expansionist desires planted during the revolutionary period manifested further. The everyday citizens witnessed a cycle of conquests resulting in territorial acquisitions, which rearranged the political map of Europe. The administration of these territories, including regions in Italy, the German states, and the territories of modern-day Belgium and the Netherlands, created new allegiances while simultaneously stirring discontent among the ranks of local populations. Reports from military leaders expressed concerns about the strains on resources as new territories required integration into the fabric of the French Empire. Aspects of daily governance were also intricately tied to personal interactions with officials and military leaders. Napoleon's strategic decisions often involved consultations with trusted advisors and generals who shared his ambition. Letters exchanged among officials reveal an environment of relentless calculation. Each correspondence carried an air of urgency, underscoring the relentless pursuit of expansion and control. The pressures of leadership loomed over them, all too often accompanied by the burden of war. By establishing alliances through marriage and strategic partnerships, Napoleon aimed to secure and stabilize the empire. The marriage between Napoleon and Marie-Louise of Austria in 1810 further illustrated these diplomatic maneuvers. This union was envisaged as a means to reconcile the long-standing animosities between France and Austria, an adversary since earlier conflicts. The nuptials were celebrated with a display of grandeur befitting the royalty, featuring elaborate feasts and festivities that echoed throughout the halls of the Tuileries Palace. Simultaneously, as Napoleon crafted a sovereign identity, the people's perception evolved. The common folk witnessed the shift from a republic founded on revolutionary ideals to an empire marked by aristocratic influences. Records indicate debates in rural assemblies reflected an awareness of the implications of this change. The disconnect between the aspirations of an emperor and the realities faced by his subjects led to growing dissatisfaction among the populace. Napoleon's decisions often extended beyond political maneuvering, delving into social engineering. A push towards the education of the masses, particularly through the establishment of lycées, marked an effort to foster loyalty among the youth. The centrally controlled curriculum sought to instill civic virtue while providing both a means of upward mobility and a tool of indoctrination. Education under Napoleon served the dual purpose of creating an informed citizenry and reinforcing the ideals of the empire. As the empire extended its reach, the toll of continuous engagement in warfare became more apparent. The military campaigns, undertaken with fervor during the early years, turned into a reliance on conscription. Men were drawn from the rural landscapes, contributing to service under harsh conditions. The smell of gunpowder and the thundering echoes of cannon fire became familiar to those in proximity to battlefields. Back home, the stark everyday realities of life remained an unchanging backdrop as families faced food shortages and loss. Reports indicate that letters home from soldiers depicted feelings of nostalgia for the simplicity of rural existence, often contrasting their current plight with earlier, less complex times. The strife experienced through military campaigns culminated during the ill-fated invasion of Russia in 1812, a defining moment in Napoleon's military narrative. Troops braved the cold as they embarked on their expedition into Russian territory. The initial successes during the summer months bred optimism, but as winter approached, the realities of the campaign shifted dramatically. The vast distances stretched their supply lines thin, leading to desperation and dire conditions. The cold became an adversary in itself, with records detailing temperatures plunging to -30 degrees Celsius. In the midst of these hardships, the retreat from Moscow commenced in mid-October 1812, marking a harrowing chapter. As Russian forces employed scorched earth tactics, they left nothing for the advancing French army. Troops found themselves without adequate rations, forced to scavenge for whatever sustenance they could secure. The bitter cold coupled with insufficient provisions resulted in significant casualties. Accounts from survivors illustrate stories of soldiers succumbing to frostbite and starvation. The echoing cries of the wounded resonated through the icy winds, creating an atmosphere of despair. The implications of the retreat reached beyond the battlefield. For Napoleon, this marked the beginning of a significant decline in his authority. News of the devastating losses spurred growing discontent among the Allies previously established. Nationalist sentiment surfaced in the newly acquired regions, with many questioning allegiance to a distant emperor. The subsequent battles in the following years characterized an era of rupture as alliances shifted and former enemies united against the once mighty figure. Napoleon's reign, characterized by ambition, reform, and conquest, became intertwined in a complex tapestry. While moments of triumph lit the narrative of his governance, an underlying tension permeated the landscape of Europe. The desire for stability and the realities of power shaped the course of events. As we delve deeper into the repercussions of these developments, we will now explore the retreat from Russia and its aftermath, embracing a period marked by reflection and re-evaluation in the corridors of power as well as the minds of the populace. The year 1812 left indelible marks on both Napoleon's military campaigns and the morale of his empire. As the cold took hold, the geographic expanse of Russia transformed into a harsh battleground marked by desperation. The retreat from Moscow continued through November into the bitter depths of winter. Soldiers trudged through the snow, their faces gaunt from famine, their bodies weakened by the relentless cold. The path back to France demanded an expenditure of energy that many did not possess. On the frigid roads of Russia, daily life for the retreating French troops took on an unbearable quality. Soldiers awoke as the pale, diffused light of dawn seeped through dense clouds. Each morning brought the familiar chill, piercing the air with an unforgiving sharpness. As they rose from their unyielding beds of straw and frozen earth, many men battled against the urge to remain within their tattered blankets. Survivors recount the haunting noise of comrades murmuring in the throes of fever, clamoring for warmth, as frost-bitten fingers struggled to tie their boots. Meals were sparse and increasingly meager. Rations dwindled significantly. Each day's breakfast consisted of minimal supplies, with records suggesting dried meat and stale bread, often boiled in icy water. The aroma of foolhardy attempts to create warmth surrounded them, a ghost of the fragrant stews they longed to share as memories of better times faded. Instead, soldiers forced down their food while the relentless cold seeped into their very bones. Amidst the unbearable struggles, bonds formed within their ranks grew. They shared tales of home and family, fostering an atmosphere of camaraderie. Many felt compelled to comfort those beyond their own individual suffering. Passers-by offered snippets of encouragement, profound, yet ultimately futile, against the sheer enormity of their predicament. Each weak smile exchanged required a monumental effort, as a sense of hopelessness began to blanket them like the snow. As November days trudged on, the landscape where they once marched to glory shifted disconcertingly. Fields that had thrummed with life became desolate. The once familiar sounds of the seasons faded to chilling silence. The haunting cries of crows flitted through the air, ominously marking the procession of the dead. Survival became the singular focus. Soldiers scavenged what they could to fortify their diminished rations. Instances of desperate measures became commonplace as frost-hardened earth yielded relentless dejection. The formidable Russian winter emerged as a cunning adversary, testing their endurance and resolve. Historical accounts underscore the operational challenges faced by Napoleon's forces. The French ranks were not merely battered by the fighting, they were gradually diminished by exposure, starvation, and a growing void of hope. Many men succumbed to the freezing temperatures, their bodies abandoned by despair. Abandonment of equipment became another stark reality. Men discarded heavy knapsacks and weapons, now burdens in this merciless land. Accounts reveal that supplies once meant for sustenance now lay scattered, abandoned, becoming litter in the relentless shifting of wind and snow. The loss of artillery pieces highlighted the dire circumstances of the retreat. These objects of conquest transformed into reminders of faltering fortunes. The influence of these conditions reverberated beyond physical hardship. Reports indicated crumbling discipline within the ranks as morale plummeted. Soldiers exchanged glances laden with resignation. Fractured loyalty interlaced itself amid the ranks as many soldiers questioned their decision to follow a leader who had led them into peril, far from home. In the ultra-modern context of the Napoleonic campaigns, the reliance on speed turned into futility, the roads once lit by the flame of victory degraded into paths of loss. In early December, the retreat culminated towards Berezina River crossing. The icy water, a barrier to their anticipated path home, presented fresh trials. Crossing it would require precise coordination and sheer force of will. There, the remaining forces faced a moment that would crystallize the retreat's calamity. Amid the icy currents, the throes of surrender began their foreboding emergence. History divulges numerous accounts of soldiers slipping beneath the ice's surface, lost to the depths, while others struggled to embark on the bridge thrown hastily across the river. As the exhausted French army endeavored to cross, Russian forces concentrated their efforts. A convergence of attacks led to chaos on the makeshift bridge. Eyewitness accounts state that cries for help mingled with the sound of gunfire. The fleeting figures of men lost to the currents became part of an unwritten narrative of despair. The Berezina made an indelible mark, signifying not merely a geographic crossing but a poignant symbol of failure. The retreat marked a profound tactical and psychological decline. As survivors made their way back, the imprint of the retreat shaped not only the fate of Napoleon but also essentially altered the political landscape of Europe. The consequences reverberated beyond the battlefield. The resulting losses created fissures in alliances, causing once loyal subjects to question their allegiance. Where Napoleon was once heralded as a leader, whispers of dissent began circulating. Napoleon himself, upon his return to France, faced a splintering authority. Dispatches arrived detailing military disasters, rival forces seizing the moment to bolster their ranks. This loss catalyzed sentiment among nations resourceful enough to take back what had been wrongly taken during his campaigns. The rumblings of insurgents began to swell, mirroring the sentiments of common people who had endured relentless hardships under Napoleon's long reign. It is essential to reflect on the tumultuous period that followed these losses. Many historians note how the intricacies of governance became intertwined with the realities of the battlefield. Napoleon's leadership oscillated between masterful strategy and perilous ambition. In classrooms across Europe, this juxtaposition remains a focal point for discourse. Scholars continue exploring the rationale behind his choices and the consequences that became irreversibly linked to collective memory. Thus, as winter would give way to spring, the reverberations of this tumultuous year continued to gather momentum. The retreat from Russia left a legacy beyond military loss, an introspection on the very nature of power and ambition. As we now transition into examining the impact of Napoleon's legal reforms, we shall delve into the fabric of his society, exploring the evolution of law, governance, and the societal shifts that sprung from this pivotal moment in history. The aftermath of Napoleon's retreat from Russia spiraled into significant legislative reforms across his empire. In 1804, he initiated the Napoleonic Code. This comprehensive set of laws was designed to unify France's fragmented legal system. Its purpose was to ensure civil rights and legal clarity. Among the code's many provisions, the principles of equality before the law emerged as a cornerstone. This meant that all males, regardless of class or status, would have equal access to legal representation. The Napoleonic Code codified numerous social reforms. It abolished feudal privileges, ensuring that titles of nobility no longer provided legal advantages. This action resonated deeply with the common populace. The abolishment of feudalism represented a significant shift toward a more egalitarian society. Property rights were now more clearly defined. This encouraged investment and trade, contributing to an emerging capitalist economy. Chroniclers from the era report that many viewed these legal changes optimistically. Legal texts were disseminated widely across France. Many citizens engaged in discussions about their rights. Napoleonic Code also established clear regulations around contracts. This contributed to a burgeoning sense of security in personal and economic affairs. The advancements in education, often seen as an extension of these legal principles, emphasized this growing awareness of civil rights. Records indicate that the code was not solely confined to France. Following Napoleon's conquests, similar legal structures found their way into territories such as Belgium, Italy, and parts of Germany. Countries under French occupation began implementing aspects of the Napoleonic Code. Legal scholars recognize its influence extending well beyond Napoleon's reign, laying foundational legal principles that persist today. However, historical discourse reveals that this code, while progressive in many aspects, also retained conservative elements. Women, for instance, experienced a regression in legal standing. Under the code, they could not own property independently. Instead, property remained under the control of their husbands. Scholars cite this gender disparity as a significant oversight in an otherwise forward-thinking legal framework. The code's regulations regarding family law, specifically relating to marriage and divorce, reflected societal norms of the time. Scholarly articles debate the duality of the Napoleonic Code. It emerged as a progressive document for its time, focusing on individual rights and opportunities. Yet, simultaneously, it reinforced existing societal hierarchies. This juxtaposition continues to be a topic of critical analysis among historians. The contours of social justice in the early 19th century paint a complex picture. Such discussions reveal the evolving nature of law as society strived towards modernization. As the Napoleonic Code began to take root, another debate emerged: the legitimacy of military governance versus civil law. Following years of warfare, the intersection between military authority and legal frameworks became a focal point of contention. The reliance on martial law during times of strife often overshadowed civil liberties. Napoleon's government frequently employed military means to quell dissent. Many records show instances where military courts intervened in civilian affairs. Observers note a growing unease among the populace regarding this imbalance of power. In 1815, the Congress of Vienna sought to restore order in Europe following Napoleon's downfall. The representatives aimed to reorganize territories and re-establish traditional monarchies. To that end, many of the legal reforms introduced by Napoleon faced significant pushback. Numerous historians consider this moment an external tension, providing a test for the endurance of the Napoleonic Code against political upheaval. Archaeological findings in various parts of Europe highlight how these reforms affected public life. In cities where Napoleonic laws were implemented, records of civil interactions reflect shifting societal norms. The standardized legal documentation became commonplace. Courts began adopting written records of proceedings for clarity and transparency. Such shifts were monumental as previously common, oral traditions began transitioning into formalized legal processes. Morse granite tablets, inscribed with legal tenets from the Napoleonic Code, have been discovered in several former French territories. Researchers analyze these findings to understand the spread of legal concepts and their implications. Professionally maintained libraries began to flourish across Europe as a result of these reforms. Universal access to codified law supported a growing literate population, contributing to the further democratization of legal knowledge. Moreover, public perception of the legal system underwent a gradual change. Citizens started to recognize the state as an entity that provided rights and protections. This marked a transition from viewing legal systems as instruments of the elite toward a framework intended to safeguard every citizen. This paradigm shift marked a notable change in political consciousness among the general populace. The Napoleonic Code can be viewed as a harbinger of future legal reforms. In many ways, it set the stage for subsequent legal developments across Europe and worldwide. The foundational principles contained within it resonate through time. Its egalitarian ideals captured the sentiments of the Enlightenment. Scholars often situate the Napoleonic Code as a catalyst for later political movements advocating for social rights. As we delve deeper, we find an element of mystery surrounding Napoleon's legacy, specifically, his final resting place. The acquisition, burial, and subsequent examination of Napoleon's remains in 1840 evoke questions about sovereignty, identity, and political symbolism. The journey of his body from exile back to France weaves a narrative as compelling as the events of his life, encapsulating the complexities of his historical impact. Therefore, we shall now turn our focus toward the enigma surrounding the mummy of Napoleon. This investigation reveals broader implications as society continues to grapple with the legacy of one of history's most polarizing figures. As we explore the circumstances of his entombment, we will also discover the ways in which a nation sought to reconcile with its past while navigating the future. The transition of Napoleon from exile to entombment is marked by a series of events reflective of the complexities surrounding his legacy. In 1840, the French government sought to repatriate his remains. This monumental task involved considerable coordination and revealing a deep yearning for closure. Witness accounts describe the meticulous preparations undertaken to transport his remains back from the island of St. Helena, where he had died on May 5, 1821. The body of Napoleon, having been buried on the remote island for nearly 2 decades, was exhumed under the watchful eyes of officials. Conditions on the island were primitive and dull. The weather reflected the ambience around the event, cloudy and somber, echoing the historical weight of the occasion. Reports indicate that while preparing the body for transport, officials encountered various challenges. The remains exhibited signs of deterioration, leading to discussions about the preservation method employed during the exhumation. Historical accounts of this moment depict how Napoleon's body was initially encased in a simple wooden coffin. The eventual decision to transport it in a grand, red mahogany sarcophagus was emblematic of the intent to honor his stature. We recognize this ornate vessel today as a significant testament to the reverberations of his life and the sentiments tied to his return. The journey across the Atlantic was extensive, requiring careful consideration of both the state of the remains and the symbolism imbued in the act of bringing him back to France. The ship sailed through turbulent waters, a fitting metaphor for the political climate at the time. The anticipation surrounding the return incited feelings of nostalgia and division among the populace. Some viewed Napoleon as a national hero, while others saw him as a tyrant whose ambitions led to widespread suffering. Once the ship reached French shores, it docked in the harbor of Cherbourg. The arrival itself prompted a spectacle and public gathering, with citizens anxiously awaiting the return of a figure who had shaped the course of French history. The sense of communal excitement resonated strongly. Dusty records paint a vivid picture of the enthusiastic reception, with both supporters and critics present. Napoleon's body was subsequently transported by rail to Paris. Commemoration of the event drew crowds that reflected the spectrum of public sentiment regarding his legacy. Processions began to form as the remains traveled onwards, culminating in a meticulous and elaborate funeral arrangement. The arrangements highlighted the complexity of national identity, a struggle to reconcile adoration and disdain tied to a singular figure. During this period, political discourse flared throughout Paris. There were debates surrounding the question of whether Napoleon should be regarded as a national treasure or a cautionary tale. Such conversations reveal the underlying tensions within French society, a society still grappling with the consequences of the Napoleonic Wars and the resultant restructuring of European political landscapes. Upon arrival at Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris, Napoleon's coffin was placed in a grand procession. The cathedral, a site steeped in history and reverence, set the stage for an event that would encapsulate conflicting narratives regarding his life. The atmosphere was heavy with anticipation. Witness accounts detail the solemn yet celebratory nature of the gathering, highlighting the confluence of grief and pride. The interior of Notre Dame was lavishly adorned, a manifestation of the grandeur that surrounded the ceremonial occasion. The flickering light of the many candles created a warm ambience, contrasting with the cooler colors of the stone architecture. Choirs sang solemn hymns, invoking a sense of respect for a man who had wielded such significant power. This striking juxtaposition of tone captures the ongoing debate regarding Napoleon's legacy. His impressive military accomplishments were undeniable, yet his ultimate fate as an exiled ruler left lingering shadows. These reflections emerged palpably during the ceremony, as attendees grappled with complex feelings about a man who oscillated between hero and villain. Over the days that followed the ceremonies, records indicate that Napoleon's remains were ultimately laid to rest in a monumental crypt at the Hôtel des Invalides. The stunning dome of the structure stands as a formidable presence in Paris, reflecting the reverence and admiration for a figure whose life was as turbulent as the city itself. The choice of this location further signified an acknowledgement of his contributions, both laureate and lamented. In the aftermath, the spectre of Napoleon inspired both fervent loyalty and criticism. The nuances of his life and the circumstances surrounding his demise continued to evoke various interpretations amongst scholars. Intellectuals began to analyze his legacy through multifaceted lenses, leading to broader questions regarding leadership, governance, and ambition. Investigations into his remains soon became a topic of interest. Scientific inquiries aimed to uncover details of his final years, offering insights into the physical toll of his life's journey. The process reflected the era's fascination with the interplay between science and the mysteries of history. Archaeologists, historians, and medical professionals engaged in examining the condition of his remains. They focused on factors such as lead poisoning, health issues, and possible causes of death. In addition to these studies, speculation arose regarding the means by which Napoleon's body was treated during its transportation and burial. Some scholars argue that the methods employed may have contributed to discrepancies observed during anatomical examinations. The intensity of scientific scrutiny over his remains underscored the enigmatic air surrounding Napoleon as a historical character, a polarizing figure whose legacy persisted even beyond the grave. Further examinations led to the development of theories positing potential enhancements to the preservation of his remains as part of state rituals. These efforts spoke to a broader desire to elevate his status posthumously while ensuring that his image remained intact in the public's imagination. The macabre fascination with the remnants of a once great leader reflected societal inclinations toward spectacle and sentimentality. As the years progressed, the relationship between Napoleon and the French people continued to evolve. Commemorative events and public discourse served both to celebrate his accomplishments and to dissect the ramifications of his rule. Political movements championing social justice often pointed to his governance as a dual-edged sword, paving paths and creating barriers. In this context, we enter a new phase of inquiry, investigating the archaeological discoveries that directly relate to the Napoleonic Wars. Uncovering battlefields, military remnants, and personal artifacts not only shapes our understanding of Napoleon but also informs our comprehension of the broader European landscape during this tumultuous period. The interplay of memory, politics, and culture continues to generate interest as we consider the myriad implications of Napoleon's legacy on subsequent generations. Thus, we shall now shift our focus toward the archaeology of the Napoleonic Wars. This study unveils a tangible connection to a past marked by conflict, revealing the stories buried beneath the soil where battles once raged. Archaeological investigations of sites related to the Napoleonic Wars have yielded a wealth of insight into this pivotal period in European history. Excavations at the Battle of Waterloo, for example, reveal extensive remnants of the fierce conflict that took place on June 18, 1815. Records indicate that approximately 200,000 soldiers engaged in combat during this pivotal confrontation. The battlefield, situated in present-day Belgium, provides an intricate tapestry of artifacts that narrate the stories of those involved. Among the unearthed artifacts are buttons, musket balls, and various military insignia. Each item offers a glimpse into the equipment used by soldiers on both sides, which included forces from Britain, Prussia, and France. An analysis of these materials can give historians vital clues about the strategies implemented during the battle. The prevalence of artillery-related remnants points to the significant role that cannons played in the conflict's outcome. Ballistic evidence indicates that the cannon fire was relentless, contributing to the psychological strain felt by the troops. Particularly revealing is the discovery of personal items belonging to soldiers. Items such as letters, trinkets, and unidentified bones create emotional connections to the individuals who fought. One excavation in 2010 uncovered a soldier's musket along with a small tin containing personal letters addressed to a loved one. The letters hinted at the anxieties faced by those on the front lines and their longing for home. Such artifacts illuminate the human experience during the tumult of war, juxtaposing the grand narratives typically associated with historical events. Another key battlefield is Austerlitz, where Napoleon achieved one of his most decisive victories on December 2, 1805. Archaeological studies at the site have included systematic surveys, allowing researchers to map the landscape and pinpoint locations of troop movements. The battlefield, often referred to as the Battle of the Three Emperors, involved Napoleon, Tsar Alexander I of Russia, and Holy Roman Emperor Francis II. The layers of earth provide insight into the tactics employed, as cannon fire carved trenches into the landscape. Historians studying the Austerlitz site have observed the presence of ordnance, cannonballs, shot, and artillery fragments scattered throughout the area. These remnants bear witness to the intensity of the battles and suggest the strategies used to deploy forces effectively. Archaeological finds here have reinforced the notion that the battle was planned meticulously by Napoleon, who is said to have feigned weakness to lure higher enemy forces into a trap. In addition, artifacts recovered offer a view into the conditions faced by soldiers. Items such as remnants of rations indicate the food available to troops. An analysis of these remnants reveals that soldiers relied on portable, non-perishable rations, including hardtack. This type of food was known for its durability, though poor in nutritional value. Documents from that time detail how soldiers endured great hardship, often going days without proper meals. Furthermore, the analysis of faunal remains, including bones found scattered on former battle sites, assist in painting a broader picture of diet. Over 1,200 animal bones were recorded during the Austerlitz excavations, indicating that livestock was utilized primarily for sustenance. However, many soldiers resorted to foraging and hunting while on the move, underscoring the desperate circumstances during active campaigns. The material evidence gathered from archaeological sites has transformed our understanding of military life and strategy during the Napoleonic Wars. Also significant are the implications surrounding military supply chains and logistics. Attention to these details highlights how essential it was for troops to have access to reliable food sources and supplies. Records indicate that Napoleon's campaigns were often marked by impressive logistical efforts to sustain large armies in the field. As excavations continue across various battlefields, the potential for further discoveries remains vast. For instance, the site of Borodino, where the brutal battle took place in September 1812 during the ill-fated Russian campaign, presents a myriad of opportunities for research. Analysis of soil samples from Borodino suggests that the landscape bore witness to one of the bloodiest engagements of the Napoleonic Wars, with estimates of over 70,000 casualties. Artifacts unearthed from Borodino, such as uniforms, weapons, and artillery pieces, have economic implications for understanding local craftsmanship. The presence of these items suggests that manufacturing capabilities were established in response to war demands. Records indicate the establishment of workshops, which produced a wide array of military equipment as conflicts escalated. Beyond mere artifacts, the uncovering of fortifications and trenches points towards the increasing complexity of military architecture during this time. Archaeological evidence reveals how the design and construction of fortified positions became a crucial component of military strategy in response to evolving warfare techniques. The topography of battlefields was often altered due to both construction and destruction, as remnants of earthworks remain noticeable in the landscape. Efforts to preserve these sites have sparked interest among conservationists and historians alike. The commitment to safeguarding the integrity of these historical locations underscores the acknowledgement of their significance. Visitors to these sites often partake in guided tours, where historical reenactments and interpretive programs allow for immersive experiences. Reports indicate that educational programs surrounding the archaeology of these sites are becoming increasingly popular among schools and community organizations. As researchers delve deeper into the past, the narrative of the Napoleonic Wars is continuously being reshaped by new archaeological findings. Each campaign yields lessons that echo through the ages. The implications of Napoleon's strategies and the collective sacrifices of those who participated in these battles have left monumental legacies, contributing enduring lessons on courage, resilience, and the costs of ambition. With the growing body of archaeological evidence reflecting not just battles, but daily life during the Napoleonic era, we gain a more nuanced understanding of the human experience amidst grand historical narratives. The unearthing of these materials provides avenues of discussion related to the principles of governance, the ethics of war, and the everyday struggles faced by soldiers and civilians alike. As we reflect on the stories that emerge from the soil, those buried in centuries past, it is crucial to acknowledge the ongoing journey this investigation represents, unveiling the complexities of a society shaped by its tumultuous engagements. Now, we gently shift our attention to another aspect of cultural development during Napoleon's reign, the profound influence he had on the arts and music of the period. His patronage propelled significant advancements in creative expressions that acknowledged not only his power but the spirit of contemporary society. Napoleon's influence on the arts during his reign extended beyond mere patronage. His personal vision shaped the cultural landscape of France and beyond. Following the establishment of the empire in 1804, a flourishing of artistic expression emerged, emboldened by the political landscape. The neoclassical style became synonymous with this era. Artists such as Jacques-Louis David and Jean-Auguste Dominique Ingres infused their works with themes that mirrored the values of honor and virtue, reflecting the ideals embodied by Napoleon himself. David's painting, The Coronation of Napoleon, completed in 1807, exemplifies this fusion of political power and artistic endeavor. The scene captures the moment of coronation at Notre Dame Cathedral, where Napoleon crowned himself, a striking departure from traditional monarchical customs. The painting not only documents this significant event but also conveys a sense of grandeur and authority that Napoleon sought to project. Records indicate that such artistic undertakings were well received in elite circles. They served to reinforce Napoleon's image as a man not only of power but also of culture. This blending of statecraft and aesthetics manifested in the decoration of public buildings and monuments throughout Paris. The Arc de Triomphe, commissioned in 1806 to honor those who fought for France during the Revolutionary Wars and the Napoleonic Wars, stands testament to the merging of military honor and artistic expression. It became a symbol of national pride, enshrining the legacy of the empire in stone. One cannot overlook the role of the opera during this time, which flourished under Napoleon's patronage. The Opéra de Paris became a central venue for cultural expression. Composers such as Etienne Méhul and Camille Saint-Saëns began creating works that celebrated French nationalism and the glories of the empire. Historical records from the period suggest that the opera houses were filled with the sounds of compositions that infused the narratives of ancient Rome and French law, resonating with audiences hungry for stories of bravery and the human spirit. The commissioning of operas and ballets reflected the desires of the imperial court to cultivate a national identity steeped in romantic valor. Yet, paradoxically, this culture emerged against a backdrop of rigid censorship. Scholars note that artists constantly navigated the expectations set forth by the regime. Works that strayed too far into the realms of personal expression faced scrutiny. It is reported that some artists were compelled to adjust their narratives to align more closely with the state's ideals. Through such constraints, the art still managed to flourish, revealing the adaptability of creativity. As Napoleon expanded his empire, his influence seeped into the regions he conquered. The arts flourished in Italy and Germany. Reports document a resurgence of neoclassicism beyond France's borders. Artists in these regions were inspired to emulate the grandeur associated with the Napoleonic ideals. The preservation of ancient styles and the revival of classical themes marked a time when artists sought to align their works with the legacy bestowed upon them by the empire. In literature, writers like Alphonse de Lamartine were moved to produce works reflecting the emotional weight of the time. Poetry was imbued with nationalist sentiment, exemplified by the desire for a collective identity. Libraries began to curate collections that focused on themes pertinent to the empire's history and aspirations. This intellectual movement was encouraged by Napoleon's emphasis on education and infrastructure, which revealed itself in public libraries that made literature accessible to a wider audience than before. While the nobility reveled in ballets and operas, the realities of the common populace remained starkly contrasted. Yet, this artistic expression somehow resonated with the common people, offering them a glimpse into a dream of grandeur. Some musicians and playwrights gained notoriety by reflecting social struggles through their art. They subtly critiqued the conditions of daily life while simultaneously capturing the essence of the human experience. The significance of art during this period highlights a dual narrative. It serves both the state and the people, though their manifest realities often diverged greatly. The royal patrons aimed to uplift their own status while artists strove for authenticity among the constraints of power dynamics. As Napoleon sought to solidify his reign and expand his influence, his beliefs around the arts fostered a culture that emphasized the power of imagery and narrative. The thematic reliance on ancient civilizations not only glorified military achievements but also created an aspirational identity for the nation. This blending of ambition with artistic expression illustrates the deep connection between governance and culture. In summary, the artistic developments during Napoleon's reign maintained a delicate balance between serving imperial ambitions and reflecting the society's aspirations. The arts flourished as powerful tools for propaganda, yet they simultaneously captured the deep human sentiments that resonate to this day. As we prepare to transition our focus, let us consider the broader implications of social structures in this transformative period. The influences of Napoleon extended beyond the realms of war and artistry. They permeated the very fabric of society, impacting governance, class dynamics, and the daily lives of individuals far beyond the elite circle. We now turn our attention to the socio-political climate during the Napoleonic era, examining how these changes shaped not only France but the surrounding regions, illustrating the profound effects of leadership and policy on the collective consciousness. The socio-political climate during the Napoleonic era emerged as a fundamental aspect of daily life throughout France and its territories. Napoleon's policies, intended to streamline governance, reverberated through every layer of society. His influence extended beyond the halls of power and into the lives of ordinary citizens. These changes, while sometimes viewed as progressive, often carried significant repercussions for various social classes. The Napoleonic Code, instituted in 1804, served as a hallmark of Napoleon's regime. Records indicate that this legal framework aimed to unify and simplify the vast array of laws that had existed prior to this period. The code established clear regulations around property rights, family law, and civil rights. It was intended to eliminate feudal privileges and promote meritocracy. Yet, despite its progressive ideals, it also reinforced certain patriarchal structures. Women were largely relegated to subordinate roles. Their rights to property and divorce were curtailed, dictated by rigid interpretations of familial hierarchy. The impact of Napoleon's policies on education is another focus of scholarly discussion. With an eye towards creating a literate and capable citizenry, Napoleon implemented reforms that established lycées, or secondary schools. The records of these schools show that education was closely linked to state ideology. Curricula were designed to develop patriotic sentiments and loyalty to the emperor. Textbooks were vetted for ideological conformity, ensuring that the teachings propagated the values favorable to his regime. In these classrooms, the young minds of France absorbed lessons imbued with Napoleon's vision. Peasants, who formed the backbone of a nation's workforce, experienced mixed consequences from these reforms. While the code provided some legal protections, many were still subjected to harsh realities. Grain shortages and tax burdens emerged as persistent challenges. The burden of taxation continued to weigh heavily on rural families, limiting their ability to thrive. One particular record from 1806 indicates that the tax structure primarily favored the wealthy, effectively perpetuating cycles of disparity. A peasant's existence was characterized by a daily struggle to meet obligations imposed by the state, all while attempting to cultivate their meager plots of land. The historical documentation of land ownership during this period points to a trend of consolidation among the elite. Land, increasingly held by a small number of affluent individuals, exacerbated the challenges faced by the peasant class. With fewer opportunities for economic advancement, many sought alternative means of survival, often migrating to urban areas in search of work. In 1810, over 50,000 individuals left rural France for Paris, drawn by the promise of employment and perhaps a new life. The streets of Paris became crowded with those coming from various provinces, all grappling with the realities of the burgeoning industrial age. Through urbanization, the social fabric of France began to evolve. Emerging classes of workers fueled industries and built the foundations of modern cities. Factory life, however, was marked by its own stringencies. Workers often toiled long hours in arduous conditions. Labor rights were virtually non-existent, and the pay was insufficient for basic sustenance. The harshness of this new way of life stands in stark contrast to the elevated status of the elite living in the palatial residences that adorned the landscape. As urban communities grew, so too did the discontent among the workers. The grievances of urban labourers gave rise to movements that would echo throughout subsequent decades. Records from the 1810s illustrate instances of protests demanding better wages and working conditions. Public demonstrations became increasingly common as workers sought to claim their rights and voice their hardships. The elite, for their part, often turned a blind eye to the struggles of the working class. Their lives unfolded within the gilded environments of palaces and grand estates, far removed from the realities of life in the industrial sectors. In stark contrast to the laboring population, they maintained a lifestyle characterized by luxury and privilege. Sipping fine wines and dining on delicacies, the aristocracy engaged in pursuits that bore no resemblance to the strenuous existence of the common man. The juxtaposition of life among the elite and the workers reflects a deeply entrenched class system. Cultural events, galas, and balls were meticulously curated experiences that showcased wealth and power. The extravagant ceremonies fostered an atmosphere of opulence, wherein the ruling class reveled in their status. Meanwhile, the working class labored in silence, with their struggles remaining largely obscured from the public eye. Napoleon's influence hardly ended with his governance. His policies had profound impacts extending beyond his reign. The seeds planted during this time would later germinate into the political upheavals that swept through Europe. The aspirations of the lower classes began to crystallize into a collective demand for rights and recognition that would culminate in various revolutionary movements. The socio-political landscape of this period presents a myriad of complex interactions. The burgeoning of new ideologies, driven by the realities of life under Napoleon's rule, set the stage for future upheavals. One can observe that the connections between governance, class, and daily experiences were intricately woven into the tapestry of this transformative time. And so, as we reflect on the profound effects of leadership and policy, we begin to transition towards an examination of the lives of the elite within this grand narrative. We will uncover the opulence of life in the palatial residences, where rituals and etiquette dictated every interaction. The contrast between the lives of the ruling class and the common folk will become increasingly evident as we move forward. The daily rhythms of both societies, although intricately linked by history, diverged vastly in experience and expectation. Life in the Palais de Fontainebleau unfolded within a backdrop steeped in grandeur. This vast royal residence served as a frequent retreat for Napoleon and his court. The architectural splendor can be traced back to the 12th century, with significant renovations taking place during the reign of Francis I in the early 16th century. This palace, nestled just outside of Paris, was a symbol of power and a stage for imperial ambitions. Within the ornate walls, the daily routines reflected a world removed from the hardships of the common people. As morning descended upon the palace, servants began their tasks well before dawn. Evidence suggests that the first of the staff arrived at the Palais around 4 a.m. They prepared the rooms, ensuring their master's quarters were pristine. A soft glow emanated from the lanterns, casting flickering shadows across the tapestries lining the halls. The scent of polished wood and faint traces of beeswax lingered in the air, generated by the diligent efforts to maintain the palace's elegance. As the sun began to rise, the sound of delicate footsteps echoed through the hallways. Households employed numerous staff, sometimes numbering in the hundreds, all tasked with maintaining an environment rife with opulence. Each servant held a specific role, from those who prepared food in the vast kitchens to attendants who laid out luxurious garments in dressing rooms. The ornate decorations reflected the pomp of the court, with gilded mirrors and frescoed ceilings magnifying the wealth on display. Napoleon's awakening was often greeted by the soft sounds of morning rituals. He would rise in a spacious chamber adorned with rich fabrics. Records from his life indicate that his bedroom featured brocade draperies and mahogany furniture, creating an ambience where the ordinary seemed extraordinary. The morning light filtering through the heavy curtains painted the room in a warm hue, underscoring the contrast between the towering expectations of leadership and the intimate, personal moments experienced within these walls. As the emperor prepared for his day, the protocols of dress dictated every detail. Attendants would assist him with his garments, which were carefully crafted, reflecting both his status and the prevailing fashions of the time. They employed fine materials such as silk and velvet, embroidered with threads of gold and silver. This was a marked departure from the coarse fabrics worn by the laboring populace. Adornments such as medals and insignia were also carefully arranged, signaling his imperial authority. Each piece served a dual purpose, functionality and the projection of power. Breakfast followed this meticulous preparation. The dining hall was an expansive room, featuring long tables that could accommodate many guests. Records indicate that meals typically included a selection of breads, pastries, fruits, and cheeses. These humble components transformed into a ceremonial affair within the palace, accompanied by elegant tableware adorned with intricate motifs. An attendant would pour coffee or chocolate, as patrons savored their first meal of the day amidst gilded surroundings. Servants scuttled around, ensuring that every need was attended to. Some records describe the chaos that occasionally accompanied these meals. The addition of guests could transform the atmosphere. The blending of personalities echoed the layered dynamics of court life, with conversations ranging from military conquests to political intrigues. The clinking of porcelain and silverware punctuated discussions, creating a symphony of sounds that underscored the vibrancy of elite engagements. After breakfast, entitled elites involved themselves in various activities designed to maintain their status and entertain their interests. Some engaged in leisurely pursuits such as hunting or horseback riding in the expansive grounds of the palace. The hunting parties represented both sport and an opportunity for nobles to connect with their peers, ensuring the alignment of their interests within the intricate web of power. Meanwhile, an array of scholars, artists, and intellectuals would often gather at the palace, seeking patronage from Napoleon. The emperor's fondness for cultural pursuits meant that the corridors echoed with philosophy, art, and music. Composers such as Etienne Méhul gained favor, creating symphonies that would resonate throughout the halls, accompanied by performers dressed in fineries that echoed the grandeur of the environment. However, beneath the surface of splendor lay a calculated strategy, as alliances were formed and political alliances cemented. Guests were invited not solely for camaraderie, but to discuss terms and negotiate power dynamics, ensuring that the emperor held sway over his court. From nobles manipulating allegiances to generals discussing military strategies, the true essence of power was subtly woven into every interaction. In contrast, the daily life of the palace staff mirrored a repetitive rhythm. The servants, while integral to the grandiloquent facade, operated within a distinct reality. Their schedules dictated a framework of labor that was markedly different from their masters. The hours spent scrubbing floors and preparing meals, although essential, passed in silence, hidden by the lavish activities occurring just beyond their view. As evening approached, the atmosphere shifted dramatically. The preparation for lavish dinners commenced as cooks labored to create exquisite dishes that marked the end of the day. Ingredients were selected from fresh supplies, emphasizing the commitment to quality and presentation. Observers noted that dinners could stretch for hours, with multiple courses accompanied by a careful pairing of fine wines. This attention to detail and ritual became an essential aspect of court life, reinforcing both the grandeur of the occasion and the hierarchies within the palace. The dining experience mirrored a theatrical production, with carefully organized seating arrangements reflecting both status and influence. Scholarly accounts chronicle the ambience filled with laughter, discussions, and perhaps disagreements among attendees. Each dinner served not only as a meal but as an opportunity to further weave the social fabric that maintained elite power structures. After such extravagant evenings, it was customary for nobles to retire to salons where music, poetry readings, and games were held. The post-dinner hours offered an informal reprieve from the rigidity of the day's events. The atmosphere lightened further as individuals mingled, engaging in camaraderie while navigating the complexities of relationships born from shared ambition. In summary, life within the Palais de Fontainebleau was characterized by excessive pooling of resources and rhetoric. Each action, from the rise of the sun to the final toast at dinner, was laced with purpose and formality. This life of levity, largely unburdened by the daily labor that defined the existence of the working class, painted a vivid tableau of class divides. As we turn our attention to the next segment, we explore the social events and public perception cultivated in this era. The ballrooms, filled with the aroma of perfumes, reflected not merely an extravagant lifestyle, they served as vessels of political maneuvering that shaped the events of history for generations to come. The elite's engagement in public spectacles was an intricate dance of power, visibility, and positioning. One might contemplate the ways in which these interactions established lasting impressions, both on society and the political landscapes throughout Europe. The ballrooms of France resonated with the echoes of laughter and the rhythm of waltzes during the grand social events of the Napoleonic era. The air was resonant with the intoxicating scents of perfumes, mingling with the aroma of freshly polished wood. These gatherings were marked by the opulent chandeliers casting a warm glow over elegantly clad women in silks and men adorned in uniforms and tails. Such opulence lies in stark contrast to the daily existence of the common people, who labored tirelessly under a sun that never promised respite. As the events commenced, intricate seating arrangements were predetermined, reflecting the nuances of social hierarchy. Records from the period indicate that invitations were both coveted and carefully extended, loaded with implications of power and influence. Each attendee's place on the list could determine not only their social standing but also their future connections within the elite circles of French society. This meticulous curation of relationships underscored the dialogue and maneuvering that characterized elite life, echoing through time as a persistent reminder of class stratification. Music, often played by prominent composers, served to unify the atmosphere. The melodies wafted through the ballroom, supporting conversations and weaving through the laughter. Musicians, sometimes sourced from the finest conservatories, had their roles meticulously outlined. Their instrumental performances accompanied dancers as guests twirled and swayed in time with rhythmic beats. Each dance was not merely a leisurely pastime, it was an exhibition of grace and a demonstration of status. Guests often sought to impress those who would remember their performance, creating an unspoken competition amid flowing gowns and adorned cuffs. These social gatherings mattered. They were not just moments of enjoyment but were intricately linked to the political landscape of the time. The gatherings, punctuated by ceremonies and speeches, served as platforms for deeper discussions. Individuals might discuss recent military campaigns or shifts in political alliances amid their merriment. The intricate web of these interactions facilitated both friendships and rivalries. Secondary accounts in court diaries reveal the tension and excitement that pooled around particular discussions attended by key figures. A buzz would circulate as political gossip elevated the importance of certain guests over others. Interspersed with the formalities were more relaxed moments. After a long evening of sophisticated banter and calculated interactions, nobles would retreat to salons. Here, a softer ambience welcomed a different kind of mingling, where the rigidness of the ballroom softened, giving way to more personal exchanges. The accompanying light from candle flames flickered gently, illuminating the faces engineered with both hope and ambition. Conversations might turn to personal aspirations, ambitions, and sometimes disagreements regarding public policies or future endeavors. The contrast between the elegant atmosphere and the very real undercurrents of political maneuvering encapsulated the dual nature of elite life. Engagements with the arts were also in abundance. Guests frequently found themselves immersed in performances that featured poetry, theatrical snippets, or even dramatic readings. These displays were crafted not only for entertainment but also as a means of asserting intellectual prowess. Individuals were eager to show their refinement, often selecting works that would reflect their tastes and philosophies. Correspondences reveal that many patrons chose pieces carefully, hoping to evoke admiration or admiration of their own beliefs. While drinks flowed freely, and laughter echoed through these intimate gatherings, one must not overlook the responsibility and expectation that come with elite life. Attendance at these events was not merely a matter of choice, it carried consequence. Nobles were expected to perform their roles with precision. Their lives became intertwined within these gatherings, where alliances were born and occasionally broken. Records of personal letters convey the stress experienced by individuals navigating the nuanced expectations of aristocratic life, filled with the looming presence of public opinion. As the gatherings progressed into the hours of the night, one could observe the subtle changes in atmosphere. The spirited dialogues gave way to whispered confidences. Cards and games began to play a more significant role, allowing guests to showcase strategic thinking while indulging in light-hearted competition. The sound of shuffling cards and the clink of glasses created a rhythmic backdrop to these interactions, reinforcing the social fabric of the gathering. The significance of rituals associated with these events should not be undervalued. Their strategic nature fortified social bonds. In attending, individuals reaffirmed their commitments to a broader community, echoing historical notions of obligation and loyalty. Scholars note that the rituals involved in social events were often tied closely with political ambition. It was not uncommon for ambitions to stir attachments, prompting individuals to favor those who supported their causes or interests. Exiting from the salons late, attendees returned to their residences through moonlit streets, where shadows danced along the cobbled paths. Each evening left a trail of memories and potential alliances that shaped future encounters. The next morning, amidst the usual concerns of daily affairs, the reverberations of the night echoed still. The positioning within the social hierarchy remained a constant reminder of the delicate balance on which their lives were hinged. The opulence experienced by the elite contrasted starkly with the realities of those laboring under the harsh elements. A peasant's existence was a cycle of relentless toil, where evenings spent at simple tables yielded little in terms of comfort or security. As these feelings wove their way back into the lives of the elite, one could discern how profoundly social constructs drew sharp lines between the experiences of the rich and the poor. Examining the routines of life-working-class individuals, the absence of such social engagements underscores the chasm that existed between societal classes. While the upper class immersed itself in the atmosphere of camaraderie and extravagant displays, the peasantry retreated to dimly lit corners where meals were modest, and fatigue defined their existence. Commencing each day at the crack of dawn, one could imagine facing the day ahead with little opportunity to engage in leisurely nuances, creating a markedly different narrative within the same historical tapestry. Such contrasts become evident when reflecting back on the structures that governed life in early 19th century France. The paths of the elite and the working class persistently reminisce on parallel forms of existence. The implications of power dynamics permeated daily life, shaping actions, privilege, and circumstance. Understanding connections among different segments of society during this era serves as a reminder of how the experience of governance poured into the very fabric that held society together. While the discourses within the lavish ballrooms shaped the elite's world, the decisive impacts resounded into the wider community, affecting lives of the individuals who remained largely outside the spectacle. As we gently shift our attention to the lives of those who served within this ecosystem of power, we will explore the roles of guards and servants in maintaining elite life. The invisible labor that underpinned these grand affairs invites reflection on societal structures and their ongoing legacy. One would observe that the lives of those in service to the elite were equally defined by rituals, yet overshadowed by the grandeur surrounding them. As the sun dips lower, casting elongated shadows within the opulent walls of the Palais de Fontainebleau, the lives of those who serve remain grounded in duty and routine. The regal ambience surrounding the elite offers a stark contrast to their own existence. The air is often filled with a blend of exotic fragrances from lavish banquets, mingling with the earthy scent of the wood used in the construction of the palace. One observes the meticulous nature of the guards and servants within the palace, whose daily activities are framed by the bustling environment. The guards maintain vigilant attention, standing in formal attire accompanied by swords at their hips. Their presence is an embodiment of discipline, yet they remain distanced from power. Records indicate that many of these guards were recruited from the local populace, often mirroring the very realities they were tasked to protect. Servants hustle about, each with a distinct role within this hierarchical structure. The head servant, known as the major domo, oversees the day-to-day operations, ensuring that every detail aligns with the expectations of the elite. With a combination of authority and organization, he directs the staff, from those polishing silverware to the kitchen attendants preparing the evening meal. The majordomo's responsibilities reflect the intersection of power and labor, showcasing his role as a facilitator of privilege while managing the often harsh realities of those serving. As the hour approaches for the evening meal, the kitchen becomes a hive of activity. Cooks toil away while the scent of simmering stews mingles with the aroma of freshly baked bread. These culinary practices, recorded in various manuscript collections, highlight the significance of food within elite society. Records also note that meals served for the elite often consisted of multiple courses, showcasing a variety of flavors and extravagantly presented dishes, creating a culinary spectacle for guests. While the elite dine within grand halls, adorned with opulent gilding, the living quarters of the servants offer a stark juxtaposition. The kitchens, typically located at the periphery of the palace, embody a space of function rather than elegance. Servants' quarters are modest, arranged with simple furnishings, often sparsely decorated. It is common for several servants to share a single room, with beddings comprised of straw-filled mattresses. A pervasive sense of weariness often accompanies them as they finish their final tasks for the evening, reflecting the constant labor that defines their lives. After the grand meal has concluded, laughter and lively conversations echo through the corridors of the palace. Outside the walls, the guards stand still, listening to the sounds that depict a world they can only observe. Documents from the period shed light on the tensions that arose from this dichotomy. Guards are often reminded of their rank, preserving a sense of order, while also grappling with the disparities that exist just beyond their station posts. Reflecting upon their experiences, the guards share stories among themselves during quiet moments. These conversations reveal aspirations and thoughts concerning their roles. Despite their proximity to the elite, they negotiate a fragile equilibrium, aware of their lack of agency and the constraints imposed by social structures. Historical accounts suggest that camaraderie among guards formed a subtle form of resistance against the hierarchical confines of their daily existence. As the evening deepens, the moon rises, illuminating the regal facade of the palace while casting a gentle light upon the weary faces of the servants preparing for bed. Their routines consist of cleaning the remnants left from the banquet, restoring order to spaces that will be required to impress visitors once again the following day. The repetitive nature of these tasks solidifies the understanding that their lives are marked by consistent labor, a cycle that endures through the years. Within this nightly purview, the guards may reflect on their own longings for a different life, yet their duty binds them to the structure of power. They continue to watch over the elite as the cycles of privilege and service persist, shaping the social landscape of early 19th century France. In juxtaposition to the lives of the servants and guards, the elite experience the daily rhythm of their lives filled with celebrations and leisure. An understanding of these dynamics allows for deeper insights into the economic structures and power dynamics that sustain the elite lifestyle. Now, we will explore the mechanisms underlying these astonishing disparities between the lives of the elite and the laboring class. Observing how economic structures intersect with power can shed light on ordinary experiences within this complex hierarchy. The imbalances evident in taxation policies, land ownership, and wealth distribution continue to illustrate the struggles faced by the lower classes while further entrenching the elite's position of authority in society. The interplay between wealth and governance becomes evident as the sun rises over the expansive grounds of the Palais de Fontainebleau. A cool morning breeze stirs the luxurious silks of the elite attending to their complex lives, marked by a distinct separation from the struggles of the common folk. Economic systems sustain the lavish existence of the nobility, cultivated through age-old practices of taxation and land ownership. The dimensions of poverty greatly contrast with the opulence displayed in the royal chambers. Catherine, a noblewoman in her early 30s, awakens in an elaborately decorated chamber before dawn. The scent of fresh linens and faint traces of lavender waft through the air as sunlight streams through heavy drapes. The room exudes a sense of tranquility, augmented by the soft sounds of birds chirping outside. Catherine's tasks begin with personal grooming. Her attendants, skilled in the arts of beauty and fashion, prepare her for the day ahead. Historical accounts indicate that elite women of this era often donned intricate hairstyles embellished with jewels and ribbons, a reflection of current fashion trends dictated by the whims of aristocratic society. The nuances of life for those in the elite class encompass extensive rituals, from the selection of attire to the planning of meals. Each piece of clothing requires careful consideration, with the fabrics often sourced from distant lands. Record books reveal that wealthy individuals, including those in Napoleon's circle, would commission tailors to create garments crafted from silk, brocade, and other sumptuous materials. The colors and embellishments can signify wealth and status, contributing to the rigid social structure that separates them from the lives of peasants. Catherine enjoys various meals throughout her day, each marked by careful preparation and social nuances. Breakfast for the elite consists of a spread of delicacies ranging from rich pastries to exotic fruits, often served with fine wines. The use of china and elaborate table settings reinforces their status, contrasting sharply with the meager offerings on the tables of commoners. A historian may note that the disparity between diets illustrates broader inequalities. While aristocrats delight in abundance, the laborious struggle for basic sustenance. After breakfast, Catherine attends a morning gathering in the salon, where elite members discuss matters of the state and personal affairs. The air is filled with the sound of laughter and muted conversations, yet beneath the surface, political rivalries brew. Etiquette governs interactions, dictating subtle power plays and formality. The discussions reflect an awareness of the broader socio-political climate, shaped by ongoing tensions across Europe. Guests may whisper about the recent actions of Napoleon, who, as the first consul and later emperor, continues to shape destinies beyond the palace walls through campaigns and reforms. As midday approaches, Catherine prepares for a formal luncheon, significant in both social standing and political maneuvering. Elegant dishes and elaborate arrangements are crucial facets of elite dining. The use of silverware, crystal glasses, and imported fruits elevates the dining experience. Women such as Catherine often orchestrate elaborate gatherings to forge alliances and strengthen social bonds, with careful attention placed on guest lists. Meanwhile, historical accounts document the contrasting reality of the lower classes, where sustenance remains a daily struggle with meager rations. The pervasive influence of taxation impacts the lives of the working class. Records indicate that landowners would extract not only crops grown from their lands but also taxes levied on goods exchanged in towns. Commoners face harsh consequences for delayed payments. The structure of taxation, heavily favoring the elite, leads to chronic discontent among the laboring populace. The core of these economic structures ties back to property rights. Nobles like Catherine have their status reinforced through vast landholdings passed down through generations. While one family enjoys luxuries afforded by extensive estates, others toil the soil for little reward. The situation illustrates the entrenched social stratification that characterizes this era. Many peasants are bound to their lords through feudal practices. Their labor supports the elite while they themselves face ongoing hardship. The lunch gathering blends refreshments and discussions of state affairs against a backdrop of culinary extravagance. The halls of the lavish ballroom, adorned with opulent decor, reveal masters' artistry and the power held by the elite class. The opulence of their shared meals creates an extravagant spectacle, comparable to the experiences of common folk, who view such affluence with mixed feelings of envy and resigned acceptance. Elite members navigate daily life with structured routines filled with preparations for upcoming events. Each formality serves to reinforce their connections and affirm social norms. Engaging in conversations about political matters becomes a vehicle for displaying intellect and strategic thinking. This behavior fits neatly within the expectations of their social class, often reflecting philosophies that supported the existing order. As a mid-afternoon haze melts into evening, life within the palace continues to flourish. Guests engage in leisurely activities characteristic of their rank. A nearby garden is filled with beautiful blooms, the fragrance of roses mingles with that of freshly cut grass. Historical accounts discuss the imperative of horticulture among the elite. The cultivation of carefully manicured gardens not only reinforces wealth but offers a place for social interaction and relaxation. Women are often seen tending to blooming flora, a symbol of prosperity. From historical observations, it is evident that flowers were selected not merely for their beauty but for their ability to convey social messages and signify the status of the household. Guests gather to admire the efforts and exchange pleasantries, engaging again in the enthusiastic exchanges that mark their privileged existence. As evening descends, the banquet hall is prepared for yet another celebration of indulgence, filled with laughter and camaraderie. This is a hallmark of aristocratic life. Amidst an array of sophisticated dishes, conversations flow about recent political changes, their implications, and the broader world encircling them. The sparkling chandeliers cast a soft glow over the elegant table settings, creating an atmosphere steeped in refinement. It is within these elements of elite life that scholars recognize the underlying economic frameworks shaping society, emphasizing the techniques sustaining power among the wealthiest layers. The continual reinvestment into public works and infrastructure, partly funded by the labor of the lower class, manifests through grand examples of architecture littering the French landscape. These structures suggest a lasting legacy of the elite driven by the rift separating lives within society. In discussing taxation, it is crucial to note that policies are often set by those with the power to influence legislation. The elite class, possessing the wealth and education required to navigate the political climate, shapes socio-economic factors that govern everyday lives. Consequently, ordinary individuals remain insulated from decision-making processes that determine their welfare. The cycle reinforces class disparities, solidifying the structures that maintain such extremes. As the evening wanes and festivities draw to a close, the stark reality of socio-economic misalignment casts long shadows. In contrast to the comfortable retreat that women like Catherine enjoy, the common folk continue their daily toil. Reflecting on the evening spent among delicious meals and carefree conversations, it becomes apparent how social constructs not only govern behaviors but perpetuate imbalances in power. The socio-political dynamics remain fully manifested within these gatherings, illustrating how the fabric of society intertwines the narratives of its elite and its laborious. This understanding is critical to comprehending how socially accepted norms evolve and transform over generations. Discontent simmers beneath the surface of apparent revelry, suggesting that while pleasures are experienced lavishly by the elite, the struggles of the working class persist and grow. As we close this discussion of the elite life, the profound contrasts become evident, connecting us back to the experiences of those living on the margins of society. Economic systems illustrate how wealth concentrates at the top, leaving the majority to adapt to the harsh realities of life under varying conditions. The contrasts between the lives of nobility and the plight of the laboring class frame our next discussion. We will explore the implications of social constructs on governance and personal agency, examining the historical lessons learned from these disparities. It is through this lens that the intricacies of social justice, power, and responsibility are reflected in the broader tapestry of history. The blending of social hierarchies brings into focus the intricate web of power and governance, shaping the lives of individuals from different walks of life. As the sun sets and illuminates the quiet streets, the weariness of the laboring class reflects a narrative that has persisted through ages, the struggle for autonomy amid rigid societal structures. The principle of governance, entwined with the ideals of social justice, prevails in the discussions among the educated elite, yet the daily reality for those at the lower echelons of society reveals stark contrasts. As the elite gather for yet another evening of extravagant entertainment, those not of noble birth return from their farms, their hands calloused from endless labor, and their bodies weary with exhaustion. Dinner time approaches for the average family. A modest home, consisting of a thatched roof and a few damp stones for walls, houses approximately 6 occupants. The air within is cool and dense, containing the faint odor of unwashed bodies and stale bread. One can hear the low murmur of voices mingling with the sounds of livestock outside. The small hearth flickers dimly, providing the scant warmth needed for evening sustenance. One member of the family carries in what little food they possess. The meal is simple. Potatoes, boiled until soft, become the center of attention. Occasionally, a meager portion of salted fish makes its way into the pot. This combination, seasoned only with water and thyme, is a culinary representation of their daily fare, dictated by the harvest or the market's accessibility. The rhythm of preparation cycles in repetitions that emphasize the mundane tasks of sustenance. Gathered around the table, each family member takes their position. The children, tired yet expectantly hopeful, whisper to one another about the small treat they might glean from the evening's meal, a rare occurrence that could spark joy amidst their otherwise austere life. As twilight descends, they share stories about the day, the small triumphs, the hardships faced, and the faint hopes that surface even in the darkest conditions. Their words relay a longing for better circumstances, a sentiment that, though shared, seems intangible against the backdrop of reality. The economic structures that govern poverty consistently thwart their aspirations. Taxes, levied by distant nobles, consume their labors. Records indicate that the levies imposed on agriculture often exceed the meager profits obtained from their harvests. The constancy of these pressures not only strains family bonds but wields an unforgiving grip on their daily routines. After the meal, dishes are cleared carefully. Children help wash the bowls in cold water, the innate desire to contribute weaving through their little tasks. Each splash resonates with the sounds of community survival, a collective understanding that ensues from hardship. Silence envelops their small gathering as the last light of day recedes, leaving the family with shadows and whispers. Nighttime falls heavily, blanketing the region in darkness, illuminated only by the sporadic flicker of oil lamps or candles within humble homes. Here, in this setting, one can readily perceive the vast gulf between the reality of laboring families and the comfort of the elite's lifestyles. The warmth and richness of the palace gatherings contrast sharply with the cool, unforgiving intimacy of home life among the lower classes. In the far corner of the village, echoes of laughter drive their way into the chilly air. Nobles, oblivious to the struggles of the common folk, gather in lavish salons adorned with velvet drapery and golden chandeliers. The festivities continue late into the night, with fine wines flowing and rich conversations punctuating the air. Dressed in silks, adorned with jewelry, the elite live in a world where the burdens of everyday existence are foreign. Their gatherings serve as a reminder of their standing as arbiters of fate while their peers toil in obscurity. Guards and attendants attend to their needs, echoing the structured hierarchical order. The elite revel in discussions around the complexities of governance, whispering secrets and opinions on matters discussed not outside their palatial benefits. In stark contrast, the attendants, responsible for serving food and ensuring comfort, weave through these elite gatherings. Their lives, while aligned with the household of the rich, remain as dictated as those of the laborious outside. Their responsibilities involve maintaining the decorum expected by the upper echelons. Each movement, invisibly tethered to the desires of someone else, becomes a reflection of their limited agency. Feasts continue throughout the night, filled with decadent dishes, concocted from rare spices and exotic ingredients not accessible to the average citizen. As one saucer rolls, the aroma of roasted meats fills the air, heightening the senses of those present. Each bite tastes of privilege and excess, elements that remain alien to the humble offerings of the peasant's table. The evening's progress, and yet a palpable tension simmers beneath the surface. Noble discussions inevitably turn toward governance and wealth distribution. The comfort of a crystal glass in hand becomes the medium through which ideas on power dynamics are shaped. Yet, as their laughter resonates through the halls, the reality for their less fortunate counterparts starkly contrasts. Still, after the grand celebrations have faded into memory, the stark understanding persists that governance cannot merely reside with the wealthy. political landscapes are forged within homes like the one where communal meals are shared. Enlightenment ideals gradually seep into everyday mundane life. Records show debates turning to realities. The cries for justice and reform in governance echo louder each passing day, gaining traction among the populace. An understanding evolves among the working class. Families nestled in their homes feel a stirring of defiance, a yearning for recognition, for voices unheard in the grand halls of power. The harsh truth of class structures has kindled a flame of political awareness. The stories once shared at the humble meal tables now permeate walls with greater aspirations intertwined within them. Amidst the continuous cycles of labor, economic oppression breeds resilience. Children, having grown more aware of their situation, carry within them a fire for change that stirs beneath the surface of their daily routines. The struggles faced in fields and kitchens begin to weave into a larger fabric that questions the status quo. In this coexistence lies a pertinent reality, the moments of enlightenment juxtaposed with the bleakness of existence. The realms of peasantry and nobility continue to exist in parallel, marked by competing desires and needs. As the Napoleonic era beckons, the clocks and calendars begin to synchronize social movements with the rigid structures that govern daily life. Thus, reflections surface on the implications of these social constructs as we transition toward the broader narrative of governance, an examination of the intersections of power and responsibility within the fabric of history. This analysis underscores the lessons that have endured through time, linking the tales of the common man to those who wield power, comprehending how such interactions shape the course of societies. Now, we shall explore the broader social transformations as they unfold during the Napoleonic period. The movements toward change fostered by common struggles and elite governance engage us in defining the evolution of power, law, and social constructs. Each aspect contributes intricately to the grand narrative, echoing across the generations of individuals shaped by the trajectories of their times.